Hey guys, welcome to the channel again, man. Always grateful to have you guys join me on the live. I appreciate every single one of you when you guys are watching this. I just like to watch all the press briefings. I watch all the executive orders being signed. I like to be in the know about what goes on in the White House. Unlike when President Biden was president, kept us in the dark about everything. We never saw the president, never talked about anything, but we all knew that him and his crew was potentially stealing stuff. Let's get that out of the way because we all know that's true. The Democratic Party, I'm not gonna say that now, but honestly, I don't think it was um, a very truthful party, a very upstanding party, and as such, I'm kind of glad that we are in a new administration. I see on the internet where a lot of people are saying that the economy is not doing great, and they're unhappy without President Trump's first 100 days, so forth, so forth, so forth. Um, Question I'd like to ask all those people: do you think that if Kamala Harris was here, it would have been better at all? Do you think it would have made any progress? We would have revert back to the Stone Age. We would have, whether you like it or not. And with each administration, we actually can see that President Trump is trying his best to right a lot of wrongs. We also should know that things don't just get done because somebody say they want to do it. Even though President Trump said he would have had the war ended, I do believe that if he was in power, the war wouldn't have started. I think he's a better negotiator and spokesperson than Trump or Kamala Harris. So I do believe that the war in Ukraine wouldn't have even started. I do believe that what happened to those people in Israel wouldn't have happened either. I 1000% believe so, because he's a diplomat, and he takes pride into open communication, as do a lot of men actually do. It's so surprising because a lot of women will talk about men and communication, but yet still they don't really communicate. It's so weird because women will talk about communication 1,000 times, but more than likely the guys communicate a lot more than women do. You know what I mean? Because the reason why I said that is because Kamala Harris was partially responsible for the war breaking out in Ukraine. She was supposed to actually sit down and talk to both parties, but because they already hate Putin, they didn't want anything to do with him, so that never transpired. And so the war started. And not only that, obviously, when you see our president leaves a certain area that's been torn by war for years, especially as with how Biden left, all billions of dollars of equipment, ammunition, firearms in the hands of our former enemy, pardon me, and now this what we left over there is pretty much their army. They would not have an army. If you watch those videos where you see them in Afghanistan driving around in tanks and with guns on skates, that's all because of the United States. You know what I mean? And and that's due to the way our president, Biden left. Like, I just don't understand who makes. What's up, guys? Welcome to the live. Who makes decisions like that to say, well, this is how we're gonna leave? Like, you think about certain things where you say, these people are supposed to be the echelon of thought in our country. These people are supposed to be the highest of the high. These people are supposed to have the best minds in Congress. And it seems like during the Democratic administration of the last administration, all the decisions that were made were so kindergarten. Like, listen, I'm not a politician. I have a master's in political science and criminal justice, but even I can tell you that I would not have left like that. There's no way I would have left my equipment. That's like you taking your firearm to your enemy's house and leaving it there, and then just running out of there. That makes absolutely no sense. And who are the advisors in the White House that said to the president, Mr. President, that's amazing. You did an amazing job. Let's just leave billions of equipment in the hands of these radical people that can potentially sometime in the near future be our enemy at one point in time. Like, amazing. Like, I never understood that. Who would say that? And what president would actually even do that? Leave billions of dollars in equipment, just run out of there like you're scared, like somebody scared you. Listen, if the United States wanted to stay there and take their time and leave Afghanistan and do it like as slow as they possibly could, the Afghanistanis wouldn't have done one damn thing. They would have watched us leave and not do a thing. But I just never understood how people think that if the Democratic Party was still in power, we would be in good hands. How would we be in good hands? It makes absolutely no sense. Again, when I've said this in previous lives, when Kamala Harris was gifted $1.5 billion to run for her presidency, the first thing she did, you remember what she did? The first thing she did was, guess what she did? Anybody in the comment want to tell me? She ran and gave it to rich people. She made rich people richer. She just said nothing. She did nothing for the poor Americans, whether black or white. That's what I'm saying. The Democratic Party is not for the American people. They give you the idea that they're for American people. When they want stuff done, they prey upon the color separation, they prey upon the class separation, and they prey upon your right as an American to do certain things. They say, oh, if you're an American, you will do this. If you're black and you want to support black folks, you'll do this, and they perpetuate that kind of that kind of rhetoric to get their points across, to get their votes in, to bolster their political prowess and their political seats that they have. But when it comes down to the American people, they do not have our backs. And we can clearly see with Doge that Elon Musk is finding so much treachery. Again, I think I said this in a previous live where I said, I'm glad that Doge is finding all this money, that this theft that's been going on for years. And trust me, guys, it's been going on since Barack Obama was around. All right. And that is why they tried to take out President Trump so many times, because they knew that free money, that money that went unchecked for so many years was gonna stop. And they knew that this man was coming for people's heads. And I'm glad he did. And I just don't understand how Americans don't feel as though, listen, man, like, I'm glad that this man did what he did. This man is taking our tax money, giving it to foreign countries, stealing it, making themselves, listen, all these politicians, these Democratic politicians, and probably all politicians, I put it on both sides of the aisles. I don't think, any politician is 1000%, honest when it comes to, the money that they handle. I love President Trump, but I think everything he does, it's going to bolster his stock at some point in time, just like Barack Obama did. Just like Michelle Obama lied to us, how she was. Remember when they were the face of black couple, and now she has her own podcast now. You know what I mean? She has her own podcast now saying that when she was married to the president, lying to us for all those 8 years, that she was unhappy. That is what the Democratic Party do. That is what, a lot of the people in politics do. They lie to you to get your vote. They push certain agenda that they themselves don't even believe in. And Michelle Obama is the epitome of that. She could never run for office. She could never run for office. And then the reason I can't believe she said that she did not go to what's his name's funeral. This former president that died a couple months ago. She said she did not go to this man's funeral with her husband, with her still husband, because we know she's trying to get her ugly ass out of that relationship. And I don't know why she thinks that, her going solo and leaving Barack Obama. Listen, I do not like Barack Obama, but guess what? He's not a bad looking dude. Barack is a handsome dude. Barack can pull some bitches. Believe me, he can pull a lot of bad bitches. Whether young bitches, old bitches, he can pull some girls. The man got the gift of gab. He's a former president. He's not a bad looking older dude. He's worth millions. Barack can pull some, you know what I mean? Now you look at Michelle, and I'm not trying to go there. I don't want to disrespect our former president's wife, but let's be real. Ain't nobody lining up for her. And then in her mind, I think she thinks that I'm gonna leave him. I'm gonna live my best life, and I'm gonna be happy. You know what I mean? And she lied to us they both lied to us during his presidency that they were black black excellence couple. You know what I mean? On paper, it looked like that, but she just admitted to us that she couldn't even stand the dude. You know what I mean? And she lied to the American people for 8 years that she was in love with the president, and all their black couple hugging and kissing and showing the family and having the dog and the two beautiful daughters and all that stuff. But that's what the Democratic Party does. And people are complaining now that President Trump is not doing what he said. Listen, how are you going to right the wrong of 8 years of Barack Obama and 4 years of Joe Biden in the first 2 months? Like, things take time. Even though you hear the president say, hey, I'm going to do this, investors are coming in, it doesn't just happen overnight. He doesn't just click his fingers and everything happens. Some things has to go through the process. And a lot of normal Americans don't think like this. That what they see on TV is the extent to which their political knowledge goes. They don't know the little things that goes behind the scene. They don't know what it takes to make certain things happen. The backdoor deals, the rubbing the back of this person and kissing the feet of this person and the promises to this other person so this can happen. That's what politics is. If there's that little bit of politics at your house, it's the same politics in Congress, just at a bigger scale with more money and more at stake. Whether you like it or not, that's what politics is. It's a lot of, one hand washes the other. I do this for you, you do this for me, blah, 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 and blah, blah, blah. That's how it works. You know what I mean? And that's how it goes with everything in life. Whether you want to believe it or not, that's how it is. You go for a job interview, you know what I mean? Somebody knows somebody, you're not getting that job because they know somebody and you don't. Oh, I'm going to take care of your son because I know you. And that person who actually deserves this job is not getting it. So all the things that our president is doing right now takes time. If it takes 1 year to happen, for me, I don't care, because that's what politics is. So when a lot of people see the news and they talk about, the man, a lot of the things that, this is the first time in history I've seen where a president runs on certain things and he tries to fulfill all the things that he ran on. Whether you're a Democrat or a Republican, you got to admit that. You have to admit that. How many things did Joe Biden run on that he never fulfilled or even tried or even make an attempt? How many things did Barack Obama run on for those 8 years, for those 2 terms that he served, that he promised, black folks, we're going to elevate. And he used the black folks and the black vote to get where he was. And once he got there, whether you like it or not, he didn't do anything. And I'm not turning this into a black and a white thing, but to be honest with you, I'd say Barack Obama had the backs of the LGBTQ than he had of the black folks. And I don't want to go there with the black and white thing because I don't really care too much about that kind of stuff. But, black is black, white is white. It is what it is. We all know that. And I don't want nobody coming up in the chat telling me about, Barack Obama. What did he do? Really, think to yourself and say, what did this man do for, the wider world? And don't tell me nothing about Osama bin Laden, because Osama bin Laden really wasn't that much of a threat to us, honestly. And don't tell me about Obamacare, because that is foolishness. We all know Obamacare is trash. Yes, we don't really have much to replace it right now, and that's on government in general. Instead of giving away our hard-earned tax dollars, they should have created a system way before Obamacare to make it better for the American people to have good health insurance. So I'm not necessarily knocking Obamacare, but I'm saying that's not nothing special. You know what I mean? It ain't that great. We're one of the richest countries in the world. We can do better. You know what I mean? And, you ran for 8 years with the support of black folks. A lot of people that need Obamacare is minorities. It's disenfranchised blacks, disenfranchised Hispanics, disenfranchised whites. And those were the people that voted for him. And Obamacare ain't nothing special, for those people. I just feel like as a politician, this is how I think. If I'm running on a certain point and if I made certain promises, I would want to fulfill those promises. And that's what I see President Trump doing right now. He's trying to fulfill those promises, and people are still trying to downplay him. And we just saw where they tried to do the no tax on tips, and guess what? Guess what? Guess who voted against it? Every single last one of them. And they're saying they're the party of the people. Guess who voted against every single one of them voted against it? Guess what? The Democratic Party. The party that says we're for the disenfranchised and the blacks and the lower class, lower middle class, and whatever the case might be. They voted against it. Yes, they did. We saw on President Trump's speech when he was even talking about, all the moral things, all the good things. They didn't sit down, and we had that Indian senator that shouldn't even be a senator. He comes up and he's like, "Oh, you're terrible." Yeah, you sat down when this man was talking about uplifting the American people, uplifting the economy, uplifting our country, and they sat there with their little snarls and sat there and waved their little banners about he's a racist and he's a misogynist and he's a dictator. That goes to show you they're not for you. They're not for you, people. And I'm glad that I voted Republican. I've been voting Republican since the first term. Since after the first term of Barack Obama, because after that first year when I saw that this man was a liar, I said, "Oh no, I'm good. I'm never going back." And so now how I vote is not necessarily Republican or Democrat, but it's more like I vote on the issues that are at hand. And if somebody's saying, "Hey, I want to bring back prayers in school," that's what I vote on. If somebody says I want to bring back, common sense in politics, that's what I vote on. If somebody say, "Hey, let's take away tax on tips for the lower middle class and lower class," guess what? That's what I vote on. If somebody say, "Hey, I want to keep my borders secure," because you can't just walk up into Europe and just walk on the streets and get free money. Try to book a flight to Europe and not pay for it and see how it's going to work out for you. Yeah, it's not going to work out at all. That's who I vote for. So why should we do it for millions of people across the world when I paid my hard-earned taxes for years and years and years, and I can't even go to my bank and say to my bank, "Hey, listen, I can't pay my mortgage this month. Can you give me a break?" You know what they're gonna do? They're gonna say no and let me miss my mortgage payment 2, 3 times, maybe 4 times in a row. Guess what I'm gonna do? I am going to lose my house. And they're not going to fight for it to give it back to me. So why should you go fight for somebody who just walked here and has not paid into the system, and you give them all the things that you should have given me and people like me in this country that we've worked hard for? That's who I vote for. Why should I vote for someone who says, "Hey, a little kid that is 10 years old wants to change his gender from one thing to the next"? When I was 10 years old, I thought I was He-Man. And I thought there was a He-Man sword underneath my bed for a while. You know what I mean? Every time I woke up, I looked on, I couldn't find that sword. You know what I mean? And you want to tell me that this kid, what's up, guys? Welcome to the live, guys. That these little kids have the right to vote on gender changes? Hell no. No, that's not Christian. I'm not going to vote on that. You know what I mean? I'm not going to vote for anyone who pushes that. I'm not going to vote for anyone who pushes some ungodly nastiness, in front of everybody all day, all time. I do not want to see it. Listen, I'm a straight black man. I don't want to throw that all into a gay person's face or another person's face. I'm just who I am. If somebody's gay or straight or whatever, be that. I don't want you to force it on my kids. I don't want you to force it on my family. I don't want you to force it on me. We were fine before when it wasn't forced on anybody, when everybody could just be who they want to be in the sanctity of the safety and the privacy of their own home. I don't want you to throw it on my kid. I don't want you to plant it on my kid. I don't want you to put it everywhere my kid looks. I don't want you to put it in every TV show. I don't want you to put it in everything my kid can see. I don't want to put it in Walmart and put it in Target and put it in. I don't want that. What I want is for the government to do its job, help the American people when they're supposed to, keep us safe, you know what I mean, and do their job so we can live the best life we can live, protect my borders. And those are the things that the man ran on. And how can you vote against that? What was Kamala Harris going to do? Please tell me. She wasn't going to do a damn thing. She took that $1.5 million and she gave a lot of it to who? Oprah, YouTube. She gave it to Jenny from the Block. She gave it to Meg the Stallion. She gave it to YouTubers and podcasters. She gave it to, what did she show me? She had $1.5 million $1 billion at her disposal. And she took that money. She didn't do anything to propel, any kind of morality in this country. She didn't do, she went on every talk show that had anything to do with LGBTQ, PQ, STUV. I remember that one rally that she had when the guy was saying, something about God, and she jumped up and say, "Oh, you're in the wrong building." Yeah, God is good all the time, all the time. God is good. Yeah, you got struck down right there for that. And she never had it. I mean, without God's intervention, we know she's still not had a chance. I've even got into arguments with friends that I've been friends with for years because of this person, because I'm like, bro, if you watch the news like I do, and you watch all these, you watch Forbes, you watch Australian news, you watch Indian news, because I don't just watch what American television show us. I like to watch what, the Indian news. I like to watch Australian news. I like to see the news from around the world, see how other people see us as Americans, right? I like to see what other people think about us. If that's like saying you're I don't know, some kind of scientist, and if you only think that it's the way how you think is the way how the world is, and not have a different perspective, of someone else coming in and say, no, but it could be this or it could be that, then you never really open up yourself to more ideas. Because there's a lot of times I have an idea on something, and then I say it to somebody, and then they tell me something, and I'm like, you know what? That is absolutely true. I never thought about that. Am I lying? How many times does that happen? You know what I mean? So I watch every news. I want to see all the perspective. I watch a White House hearing for people that are nominated for different positions that affect the lives of millions and billions of people, people across the country. Because whatever happens here in the United States, guys, it doesn't just affect us. It affects everybody, whether you like it or not. I'm Jamaican. And, ever since I was a kid, people have been coming to the United States to work, to come back to Jamaica and build up a house, make their family better. And a lot of you guys know that. You know what I mean? So whatever affects Americans affects the rest of the world. Believe it or not. If tomorrow morning the United States ceased to exist, yes, other countries would exist, but it would be very hard for them. It would take them years to get to a point where they can say, all right, we can sustain ourselves. The American economy, the American landscape affects the rest of the world, whether you like it or not. Whether you believe it or not, I really don't care, because I know it's a fact. You know what I mean? So anyways, I'm rambling on, guys. I'm here to watch this. Again, I like to bring you guys in when I'm watching stuff like this, so you guys can sit in with me. This is how I get more information. This is how I see what's going on as an American citizen, or just as American period. If you live in the country, you want to know what's going on in your neck of the woods, which is the United States. Or if you're not just watching the news about what's going on in Congress, watch your local news. I worked in corrections for a while. I was a sergeant, and believe me, the work that people do at nighttime when you're sleeping, trust me, you're happy to know that those people are doing that job, because the people that they keep suppressed in prisons or out of your home, man, those people are savages, man. And if they were to just allowed to roam free, you guys don't even know what goes on in your own neighborhoods at night. And a lot of my friends right now are police officers. I'm not a police officer because I really don't have the temperament for being a police officer. So I went the other way. I'm a nurse. So and there's a reason why I went that route, because I'm from a country where I'm from Jamaica, where we get busy when it's time to get busy. And I don't think that I didn't go the police route because I didn't think that my temperament fit that. I'm always a nice guy, but my temperament is not built for being a police officer. No, nobody's gonna spit at me. Nobody's gonna go ham on me, and nah, that's not gonna happen. So I couldn't be a police officer. I just don't have the temperament for that. I don't think I have. I just don't. I know what I'm capable of doing, and I know. So I just stayed away from that route. So but best believe, guys, if you ever knew what happens in your neighborhood, what cops go through, the reports, the things that goes on at nighttime when you close your eyes and go to your bed, you'd be more thankful for police officers, correctional officers, law enforcement, so you can sleep in your bed. So when you see all these people coming on TV, the Democratic Party talking about, demonetize police and this, and they hate the cops and the da 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 da, they don't have a clue what they're talking about. And it's because and also, if you read the news, if you read local news, you will see that really goes on and what it really takes to protect the American people, so they can talk shit about your president or your senators or whatever, but they really don't know what it takes to actually keep them safe. And with that said, guys, I think I rabbled on enough. We're just gonna watch Karoline Leavitt make her speech. And then we call it a night. Guys, I appreciate every single one of you for coming in and joining the live. Thank you guys very much. I really appreciate you. If you guys don't mind, you guys can hit the subscribe button, share this video. I like making a lot of these content. I'm thinking about, creating my own podcast. I really don't do a lot of this stuff now because I'm in nursing school, finish up some stuff right now. So I don't really have the time. But when I do take a break from my studies, I always come and sit down and watch the news and see what's going on in my neck of the woods, and then share it with the people. A lot of people, you'd be surprised, don't have access to the news like this, but they have the internet and they can be on YouTube. So if I can share that with the rest of the world, my channel is mostly based on, I'm a huge advocate for a two-way advocate. I love firearms. I'm an American. I love firearms. I love trucks. I love dogs. I love America, and I love this. I just love this country. I'm from a different country, but this country has given me the opportunity to pretty much do whatever I want. Not whatever I want, but I feel like if you come to this country and you come the right way, believe me, guys, there's nothing unattainable. Absolutely nothing unattainable. And I'm telling you guys that now. I came from a life where it was, if this is the bottom, I was right here. You know what I mean? And I came here, I worked hard, and I stayed in school. I came here on a track scholarship and I competed. When I left school, my senior year in track and field, I was homeless because I didn't have any family here. And to the point now where I'm okay. God has been good to me, and I feel like anybody that comes to this country and they tie up their bootstrap and hold their head down and work hard, anything is attainable. If you really wanted to be a millionaire tomorrow, honestly, guys, I think you could. If you found the right idea and you found the right books and you found the right, people to show you, and you really push and you have the drive to do it, in this country, you can. Not a lot of countries you can do that, man. You can't do it in a lot of third world countries. You can't do it in a lot of second world countries, but you can definitely do it in the United States. Some countries, even Europe, you can't just go there and say, yeah, I'm going to go here and be. No, in the United States, there's so much opportunity for you to get right and do right here. So that's why I love the United States. I love anyone that promotes our country, that wants to protect our country, and I wouldn't have it any other way. Guys, with that said, let's watch Karoline Leavitt make her speech, and then we go from there. Thank you guys for joining.
Good morning, everybody. How are you? Good to see you bright and early on this Monday morning. As you know, this week marks the first 100 days of the Trump presidency, and President Trump's first 100 days have undoubtedly been the most monumental and historic of any administration in American history. President Trump has already delivered on hundreds of promises he made to the American people, and we will continue to talk about all of them throughout this week. Tomorrow, I will host a press briefing at this same time, bright and early again, to highlight the Trump administration's economic accomplishments with our Treasury Secretary, Scott Bessent. And tomorrow night, President Trump will travel to Michigan to discuss all that he has achieved on behalf of the American people. On Wednesday, the president will host an open press cabinet meeting where each cabinet member will discuss their success thus far and their plans for the future. Today, we kick off 100-Day Week with a focus on the president's historic effort to secure our southern border. Later this afternoon, President Trump will sign an executive order on law and order and another executive order on sanctuary cities. The first EO will strengthen and unleash America's law enforcement to pursue criminals and protect innocent citizens. The second EO is centered around protecting American communities from criminal aliens, and it will direct the Attorney General and Secretary of Homeland Security to publish a list of state and local jurisdictions that obstruct the enforcement of federal immigration laws. After these are signed, the president will have signed more than 140 executive orders already, rapidly approaching the total number signed by the Biden administration over the course of 4 years in office. Speaking of Joe Biden, it was his awful open border policies that recklessly allowed more than 10 million illegal aliens to invade the United States over the past 4 years. Innocent Americans like Laken Riley, Jocelyn Nungren, Rachel Morin, and so many others were viciously murdered at the hands of these illegal aliens as a result of Biden's dereliction of duty. That's why one of President Trump's central campaign promises was to secure the border and end this invasion. In just under 100 days, 99 now to be exact, the president has overwhelmingly delivered on that promise. America's borders are now secure because of President Trump. He has restored the rule of law, enforced our immigration laws, and defended America's sovereignty. The president immediately declared a national emergency on the southern border, deployed the U.S. military and Border Patrol to repel the invasion, and ended reckless catch and release policies. The results have been nothing short of extraordinary. Between President Trump's inauguration and April 1 of this month, only 9 illegal aliens were released into the United States, a staggering 99.99% decrease from the more than 184,000 illegal aliens who were released into the country under Biden during the same period last year. The number of unaccompanied illegal alien children arriving at the border has also hit a record low. Total attempted illegal crossings at the southwest border hit a record low in February, only to fall to another new record low again last month in March. Just listen to these incredible numbers. In March 2024, under Joe Biden, Border Patrol encountered approximately 140,000 illegal aliens at the southwest border. 1 year later, in March 2025, under President Trump, Border Patrol encountered just over 7,000 illegal aliens at the southwest border. That's another 95% decrease from the prior year. The first piece of legislation President Trump signed into law was the Laken Riley Act, which requires illegal aliens arrested or charged with theft or violence to be detained. President Trump also reestablished the successful Remain in Mexico policy from his first term to ensure that aliens who arrive at our southern border and claim asylum are returned to Mexico to await their hearings instead of being allowed into our country while they wait. The president has also restarted construction of the signature advanced border wall. More than 85 miles of new border barrier are already in various stages of construction and planning. And Border Patrol, in collaboration with the Department of Defense and the great state of Texas, have deployed 75 additional miles of temporary barriers across the southern border. The Trump administration, as you know, has also ended the disastrous CBP-1 Act, which Joe Biden exploited to facilitate the migration of nearly 1 million illegal aliens into the country. The Department of Homeland Security has relaunched this as the CBP HOMAN to provide illegal aliens in the U.S. a straightforward way to declare their intent to voluntarily depart. For years, Joe Biden's weakness in open border policies allowed vicious cartels to functionally control, through a campaign of terror, rape, and brutal force, nearly all illegal traffic across the southern border. President Trump has put a stop to this in record time. He designated these heinous cartels as foreign terrorist organizations and invoked the Alien Enemies Act to immediately apprehend, detain, and remove these massive threats who have flooded our country with deadly drugs, violent criminals, and vicious gangs. The Trump administration is working 24/7 to successfully arrest and deport these illegal criminals and foreign terrorists from our communities. We are in the beginning stages of carrying out the largest deportation campaign in American history. Over this past weekend, it was announced that through Operation Tidal Wave, a joint effort between ICE Miami and Florida law enforcement agencies, nearly 800 illegal aliens were arrested during the first 4 days alone. Among those arrested were a Colombian murderer, alleged MS-13 and 18th Street gang members, and a Russian with a red notice for manslaughter. And on the other side of the country, in the early Sunday morning hours, DOJ and DHS together launched a joint raid of an illegal alien underground nightclub used by Tren de Aragua in Colorado Springs, Colorado. DHS took more than 100 illegal aliens into custody, and many drugs and weapons were also seized. Operation Tidal Wave is a preview of what is to come around this country. Large-scale operations that employ our state and local enforcement partners to get criminal illegal aliens off our streets. As always, President Trump and our entire administration are grateful for the courageous law enforcement officers who are putting their lives on the line every single day to protect their fellow Americans and to keep our country safe. After 4 years of being vilified and hamstrung by the Biden administration, heroic ICE and CBP officers finally have a president who has their backs and is allowing them to do the jobs they signed up to do. There's no person who can attest to that more than our incredible border czar here at the White House, Tom HOMAN, who has dedicated his professional career to protecting our country and enforcing the law. I will let Tom deliver some short remarks, and then we'll open it up for questions today. Thanks for being here, Tom.
Thank you. Just a few things. Look, I started in Border Patrol in 1984. I've been at this for over 40 years. I worked for 6 presidents, starting with Ronald Reagan. Every president ever worked for took border security seriously, because you can't have national security if you don't have strong border security. We got to know who's coming in, what's coming in, where's coming in, why it's coming in, right? Even President Obama and President Clinton took some steps to secure the border because they understood national security was important. Joe Biden was the first president in the history of this nation who came into office and unsecured the border on purpose. That's just a fact. We handed the Biden administration, after President Trump's first administration, we handed the Biden administration the most secure border of my lifetime, and he unsecured it on purpose. Now President Trump and this administration here, the success is unprecedented. We beat Trump's first administration on border success. Border numbers are historic low. Today, as I'm standing here, we are the most secure border in the history of this nation. And the numbers prove it. President Trump's policies are saving lives every day. There's been studies done that says 31% of women that make that journey through use of cartels get sexually assaulted. When President Trump has illegal immigration down 96%, when 96% less people are coming, how many women aren't being sexually assaulted by the cartels? How many children aren't dying making that journey? How many women and children aren't being sex trafficked into this nation? How many known suspected terrorists aren't making it into this country? How many pounds of fentanyl isn't getting into this country to kill young Americans? How many women and children aren't sex trafficked? Under Joe Biden, sex trafficking is up 600%. We had 4,000 aliens dying making that journey. We had 250,000 Americans dead from fentanyl that came across the open border. President Trump's policy saves lives every day. Even the border wall saves lives. The people want to hate on the border wall. Every place a border barrier has been built, illegal migration has declined, illegal drug flows decline. But you know what no one talks about? The border wall saves lives. Because the most vulnerable, the women and children, can't get over that wall, which means they're going to a place where there's not a wall. And what's waiting on them? The men and women of the United States Border Patrol who will take care of those humanitarian needs, the health needs right off the bat. We just went over the numbers. Let me talk about a few numbers that are important to me. Under the Biden administration, we averaged over 11,000 many days, over 12,000, some days 15,000 illegal entrants in the United States. 15,000. You know what the number was last 24 hours? 178. 15,000 to 178. Unprecedented success. On an average day in the Biden administration, known gotaways. People we knew crossed the border because on video, drone traffic or essential traffic. Crossed the border, weren't apprehended, weren't fingerprinted, weren't vetted. Average day under Joe Biden, more than 1,800 gotaways. Yesterday, 38. 38 too many? We'll get that to 0. But we went from 1,800 to 38. And finally, that was said earlier, under the first 100 days, or it was actually January 20th to April 1st, last year, 184,000 illegal aliens were released into the United States. Under this administration, 9. 4 of them were material witnesses in a criminal investigation. We need them here to testify in a serious criminal trial. 4 was extreme medical condition. We couldn't return them because they were in such bad shape. And 1 was humanitarian issue. This is unprecedented success. The border is secure. President Trump saving lives. President Trump has proven no one does it better than President Trump. There is no equal, it's not even close. So God bless the men and women of the Border Patrol. God bless the men and women of ICE who strap a gun to their hip every day, put on a Kevlar vest to not only secure our border and protect our national security, but the ICE agents in the interior, they're removing public safety threats and national security threats every day. While you're all sleeping at 2 or 3 o'clock in the morning, there are men and women out there enforcing the law and making this country safe again. And we're going to keep doing it. It's full speed ahead. So I'll leave it at that.
Awesome. Thank you, Tom, and thanks for all your great efforts. We do want to open it up to questions. If you have border-related questions for Mr. HOMAN, and I'm also happy to take any non-border-related questions. I'm happy to take border questions too, but Tom is here offering his time, so we encourage you to ask him questions. We'll start with our new media seat today. As always, Rogan O'Hanley, former Hollywood entertainment lawyer, I didn't know that, Rogan, who got fed up with the far-left ideologies of California and now posts conservative political commentary online for his more than 7 million followers across all major platforms. He joins us today from the great state of Florida. Why don't you kick us off today, Rogan?
Thank you, Caroline. In Trump's first 99 days, we've seen a coordinated assault on the rule of law by radical judges who are thwarting his agenda with an unprecedented number of national injunctions. These judges are providing more due process to violent MS-13 in Nicaragua, illegal aliens than they did for American citizens who peacefully protested on January 6th. As Stephen Miller has highlighted, it would be utterly ridiculous to have full trials and appeals for the more than 15 million illegal aliens that came across our border under Joe Biden. Many are now calling for Trump to circumvent these radical judges and consider suspending the writ of habeas corpus solely for these illegal aliens in accordance with the terms of Article 1, Section 9 of the United States Constitution, which explicitly allows for such a measure when there is a rebellion or invasion. There's strong precedent for this action, being that it was exercised by 3 of our greatest presidents, Abraham Lincoln, Ulysses S. Grant, and Democrats' favorite president of all time, FDR. All 3 of which are not only celebrated by historians, but are immortalized on our national currency with their faces on there. Furthermore, all 3 used it against American citizens, where in this instance, we would only be using it against illegal aliens. I think almost every reasonable American would agree that 15 million illegal aliens coming across our border under Joe Biden counts as an invasion, especially since many, as you highlighted, are now robbing, assaulting, raping, and killing American citizens. Historic assaults on our republic require reciprocal action from our government. Can you please let us know if and when the Trump administration is planning to suspend the writ of habeas corpus to circumvent these radical judges who are infringing on his Article 2 powers and to start shipping out illegals en masse?
I have not heard such discussions take place, but I can assure you that the president and the entire administration are certainly open to all legal and constitutional remedies to ensure we can continue with the promise of deporting illegal criminals from our nation's borders. And I also agree with the premise of your question, which doesn't happen in this room often, but I do agree with yours. It is absurd that the previous administration was allowed to allow 15 million that we know about illegal aliens into this country with very little pushback from our judicial branch. But this president is trying to simply enforce our nation's immigration laws and is facing roadblock after roadblock. So we're complying with court orders, but as Tom Homan has said every day, we're going to continue to forge ahead with this mass deportation campaign, and the president is open to all remedies to do that. Thanks for being here today, Rogan.
If I can also answer your question, as far as the judges, look, we just arrested a judge, Pam Bondi, for impeding ICE enforcement removals. I said from day one, you don't have to support ICE's operations. You can support sanctuary cities if that's what you desire to do. Sanctuary cities can stand aside and watch ICE keep their communities safe, because any public official, whether you're mayor, city councilman, or governor, their number one responsibility is protection of communities. And ICE has been clear, we're targeting public safety threats and national security threats. I can't believe there's any elected official, and especially a judge, that doesn't believe we should be doing that, and they should be helping us. But I said from day one, you can sit aside and watch, you can argue against us all you want, and protest all you want, but when you cross that line, I've said this 1,000 times, when you cross that line to impediment or knowingly harboring, concealing an illegal alien license, you will be prosecuted, judge or not. And as far as releasing so many people, you know why the Biden administration released millions of people in the United States? No one ever talks about it. I'll talk about it. Why did they release people into the interior of the United States and put them, rather than put them into an ice bed? Why not put them in an empty ice bed, $127 a night, rather than in a hotel room at $500 a night? They did it on purpose. Because when you put them in an ice detention bed, they get a hearing in 35 days. Court records show 9 out of 10 people claim asylum, get order removal, they're gone. But if you release them and put them in a hotel room at $500 a night, their hearings could be 5, 7, 9 years. You pull all appeals. And what are they hoping for that? That another Democratic administration is in power. They can award amnesty to millions. This is about selling this country out for future political power. That's what it was. The law clearly says if you arrive at our border without proper documentation, you shall be detained. Not maybe, not think about it, shall. And that's what President Trump's doing. Catch and release is over. That's what the law says, that's what we've done.
Karen?
A question on Abrego Garcia, if I can. The president recently said when it comes to facilitating his release, he's leaving that up to his lawyer. So just to be clear, have there been any negotiations between the U.S. and El Salvador over his release or facilitating his release?
I will tell you what the president of El Salvador told all of you in the Oval Office. El Salvador does not intend to smuggle a designated foreign terrorist back into the United States. He is an El Salvadorian national. That is his home country. That is where he belongs. And the administration intends to comply with what President Bukele said of El Salvador. He does not intend to send that individual back.
So that's a no. There's been no talks.
What I have told you is that the president of El Salvador has made this quite clear. Kate.
Caroline, can you tell us more about the meeting between President Trump and President Zelensky over the weekend? Did that meeting change anything? Did Trump leave that meeting thinking differently about negotiations and next steps on this?
Look, the president talked about this after the meeting himself yesterday when he took questions from reporters on Air Force One. He thinks that he is increasingly frustrated with leaders of both countries. He wants to see a permanent ceasefire. I understand Vladimir Putin this morning offered a temporary ceasefire. The president has made it clear he wants to see a permanent ceasefire first to stop the killing, stop the bloodshed. And while he remains optimistic he can strike a deal, he's also being realistic as well. And both leaders need to come to the table to negotiate their way out of this. And I do think that the president meeting with President Zelensky shows that he is exuding a lot of effort and time into this because he wants to be a peacemaker president, which he was in his first term. He intends to do that again. And this is an incredibly difficult situation and conflict that President Trump inherited from President Biden, who allowed this war to start in the first place, but he's focused on solving this problem. Does anyone have border questions?
Sure. Thank you, Caroline. If border crossings are at a record low, why should it still be considered an emergency?
It's because of what has happened in the last administration. We got to ensure that not 1 ounce of fentanyl comes across the border to kill Americans. The president has declared the cartels mixed with terrorist organizations along with MS-13 TDA. They've killed more Americans than every terrorist organization in the world combined. It's an emergency till we shut it down. It's an emergency till the cartels are wiped off the face of this earth. President Trump's committed to saving every life. Now, I just mentioned Gotaways 38 yesterday. Who are the Gotaways? Where did they come from? We had over 2 million Gotaways under Joe Biden's administration. Why did 2 million people pay more to get away? Under the Biden administration, you pay a cartel this amount of money to cross the border. Cartel's job ends at the border. Just turn yourself in a green uniform. Get released in 24 hours. Get a free airline ticket to the city of your choice. Get a free hotel room. Get 3 meals a day. Get free medical care. Get work authorization in 90, 120 days, which is the real reason they came here. Why did 2 million people pay more to get away? Because they didn't want to be vetted. They didn't want to be fingerprinted. We arrested over 400 people on the terrorist watch list coming across the southern border in 4 years. How many of the 2 million came from countries sponsoring terror? You think it's zero? Then you're ignorant. This is the biggest national security failure this country's ever seen. This is the border emergency until we end it, end all of it. We're making good strides. Right now, it's still an emergency until we shut it down.
Go ahead.
This is a question for Mr. HOMAN. Late last week, there were 3 U.S. citizen children who were removed with their mothers who were in the United States illegally. There have been a federal judge in Louisiana who was appointed by President Trump said that he was concerned that there was, quote, no meaningful process. Are you concerned that due process, at least for the U.S. citizen children, is being flouted and that the speed at which the enforcement is being done could lead to errors, as was the case in the Garcia case? And then also, if you could give an update on the deportation numbers under this administration and whether you're pleased with them.
First of all, I don't accept the term error in Garcia. There was an oversight. There was a withholding order. But things have changed. The facts around the withholding order has changed. It's now a terrorist. There was a withholding order set aside. And the game he was fearing from being removed out of El Salvador no longer exists. So the facts around that case are totally different. I'll let the lawyers litigate that. But as far as the three USC kids, I'd said from day one, if you enter this country legally, it's a crime. If you remain in this country illegally and you ignore a judge's order about deporting, if you choose to have a U.S. citizen child, knowing you're in this country legally, you put yourself in that position. You put your family in that position. What we did is remove children with their mothers who requested their children depart with them. This was a parental decision. Parenting 101. The mothers made that choice. And I tell you what, if we didn't do it, the story today be Trump administration separating families again. No, we're keeping families together. So when a parent says, I want my 2-year-old baby to go with me, we made that happen. They weren't deported. We don't deport U.S. citizens. The parents made that decision, not the United States government. But I don't hear any questions about Laken Riley had a mother. She's never going to see her child again. Rachel Warren, she had 5 children. Those children are not going to see their mom again. This administration is doing the right thing. Every public safety threat we arrest from this country and remove them, this country is much safer. So parents will make a decision what happens to their child. Having a U.S. citizen child does not make you immune from our laws. If that's the message we send the entire world, enter the country legally. It's a crime. Don't worry about it. Get order removed by an immigration judge. Don't worry about it. No one's looking for it. And have a U.S. citizen child, and you're immune from our laws, you're never going to fix the border. People will keep putting themselves in harm's way. More women would die. More children would die crossing this border. We got a secure border by enforcing laws. We're not making this up. We're enforcing laws under statute enacted by Congress, and it's the right thing to do.
Can you give an update on the deportation numbers under this administration?
What are you asking for? We just provided
The number of deportations that have occurred under this administration, whether you're pleased with that.
Last time I was counting was 139,000 deportations. Am I happy with the number? Numbers are good. Especially if you look at the ICE numbers. The ICE arrest removals are far beyond Biden. But I read the media, ICE, the deportations are behind the Biden administration. Well, why? Because they count border removals. We don't have 10.5 million people crossing the border. We don't have border removals. So Joe Biden could have deported 5% of his encounters, and numbers will still be higher than us on the border removals because we have a secure border, the most secure border in the history of this nation. Compare apples to apples, ICE arrests and deportations are far more than Joe Biden.
Sure, go ahead.
Mr. HOMAN, talking about the border wall, can you give us an update as far as how many miles are being built today? And is Mexico paying for it, as the president said they were going to?
Well, first of all, I'll answer that question because I already answered it in my opening remarks. To date, since January 1st, there's been more than 85 miles of new border wall construction in various stages of that construction and planning. The president has made it clear to Congress that we want to see more funding for not just border wall construction, but also to support our ICE agents and our Border Patrol agents who are on the ground facilitating with this mass deportation effort.
So he's clear that Mexico is not going to pay for it? Is that what you're saying?
Let's address that. Trump said Mexico will pay for the wall. They have been roundabout way, have they not? Putting 10,000 military on the northern and southern border, taking the action they did remain in Mexico. They didn't have to do that. They're doing it. Putting military on the southern border. Have moved illegal immigration to record low. We're saving millions of dollars every day on detention, transportation, removal proceedings. We've more than made up for the cost of that wall because of the action of Mexico. So is Mexico helping build that wall? Yeah, because we're saving so much money, millions of dollars a day, that we can afford to build that wall. So actually, yes, they're helping to build a wall.
Thanks a lot, Caroline. Mr. Holman, a question for you. The borders are. Can you give an estimate as to how many individuals are in the United States illegally? That's number one, and I'm sure you're very familiar with that number and estimate. And the second question is, I have a list that the White House put out of individuals, 100 ICE arrests since the beginning of the president's term, and the people are arrested for various very serious crimes. First-degree murder, convicted of rape, convicted of murder and aggravated burglary, sexual assault of a child. How many of the individuals that are in the United States illegally are people like this, really bad people?
Well, first of all, how many illegal aliens I think in the United States? At least 20 million. Here's where'd you call that? No, we've been speaking about 12 million for 20 years. We know we got 10.5 that we know came to the border. How many don't we know? I talked about known gotaways at 2 million. How many unknown gotaways we have? Like between the Big Bend sector in Texas where there's no technology, how many 1,000 people did get across there? We wouldn't know. We would know now. But, you know, so I would get venture over 20 million. But your question is, last count, last I looked, there was about 700,000 illegal aliens with criminal charges walking the streets of this country. 700,000. And that's what we're looking for now. That's what we're prioritizing. Them and national security threats.
We'll go to the back row.
Thanks, Caroline.
Yes.
For Mr. Holman, I'm Taylor with Spectrum News. We have a station up in Rochester, New York. It was reported you're visiting there tomorrow. Can you talk a bit about the purpose of your trip? I know the Trump administration is suing the city over its sanctuary city policies, how the executive order Caroline alluded to ties into it, and what your message is for communities and community leaders who say, we're able to establish our own rules here, we're worried about this input from the federal level. Can you talk a bit about that?
Well, same thing I talked about earlier. I don't think any elected mayor, any elected governor should want public safety threats, those illegally in the United States, public safety threats walking through the community. And what happened in Rochester, HSI agent called for emergency assistance. Officers of Rochester PD responded to a call of emergency assistance from a federal law enforcement officer. They responded, then they got disciplined. I don't think anybody can come up with one instance where an ICE agent or Border Patrol agent didn't respond to an emergency call from assistance from any law enforcement agency. Cops need to help cops, especially in an emergency situation, but they got disciplined. And I met those officers down in Nashville soon after, I think it was a couple of days after it, and I told them I stand with them. They did the right thing. Law enforcement responding to emergency assistance from law enforcement. So I'm going out there to support the men and women law enforcement, the men and women who carry that badge and gun every day. They're working the streets at 2 a.m. while we're all sleeping. I'm going to give my support, and they just announced a lawsuit, and that's one of many. Sanctuary City is going to be sued on this administration for flouting immigration law. I mean, the law's clear, and they're violating it, and this administration is going to take actions. I'm going out there to show my support, and men and women law enforcement. I started as a cop. In the community, I'm showing support for them. Because the community wants your police officers to be officers too. The communities don't want public safety threats walking around their communities either. And that's what it's all about, and that's why I'm going.
Mr. Holman, how close are you to housing migrants at U.S. DoD facilities like Fort Bliss in Texas?
Well, we're already housing at Guantanamo. Fort Bliss is being ramped up, so we're in the very near future. I don't have a timetable because things need to be done, construction needs to be done. We'll make sure the facilities are ready to accept. We'll make sure the facilities are able to care for the people. They're going to be detained, so I don't know the timeline right now. It changes every day because of various issues, but we're working on it.
Are you intending to hold families there, including families with American citizen children?
Family residential centers are for families. They're not jails, they're open-air campers built for families, which means they have child psychologists, they have pediatricians. And why family residential centers? Because we want to make sure that child is with a parent. Unlike the last administration who stopped DNA testing, who many investigations of children being smuggled in the country with some that wasn't related to them claiming to be a parent. So we want to make sure children are with parents. We're going to make sure that's actually a family and that child ain't being trafficked. That's the main reason.
Regarding the executive order on sanctuary cities, is the administration planning to pursue any more investigations or prosecutions like was done against the judge in Wisconsin, against local officials?
Well, we'd have to defer you to the Department of Justice, obviously, for specific prosecutions or cases against individuals. But as I said in my remarks, the executive order the president will sign later this afternoon does direct the Attorney General and also Kristi Noem, our great Secretary of Homeland Security, to provide a list of sanctuary cities in which local officials are not complying with this federal order and are not complying with federal immigration laws. It's quite simple. Obey the law, respect the law, and don't obstruct federal immigration officials and law enforcement officials when they are simply trying to remove public safety threats from our nation's communities. The American public don't want illegal alien criminals in their communities. They made that quite clear on November 5th, and this administration is determined to enforce our nation's immigration laws, and we're happy to provide the text of that executive order. And as I said, the president will be signing it later this afternoon. Shortly.
Excuse me, I want to talk about farm workers. The president said earlier this month that there could be leniency for some undocumented farm workers. I'm wondering, where do things stand with that? And I'm also wondering, does that at all undermine his message on immigration, that it's okay for some undocumented people to be in the U.S., but maybe not others?
So the president was referring to our H-1B and H-1A visa programs, and there have been no final decisions on that at all. But the president, I think, what he was intended to speak about, what he was speaking about, is ensuring that we have a clean, legal immigration system that is being respected and obeyed. And the mass amount of illegal immigration that we've seen over the past 4 years in our country completely undermines our legal immigration system, those seeking citizenship, but also those coming here on a visa to legally and lawfully work. And the president wants to make sure that those programs are respected. Reagan.
Thanks, Caroline. My question is for Tom. Tom Reagan-Reese with the Daily Caller. Over the weekend, ICE arrested 2 illegal immigrants for allegedly stealing Secretary Noem's purse over the weekend. What can you tell us about these individuals' immigration history as well as their criminal history?
I don't have the criminal history, but I know the one who stole the purse is supposedly in the country legally. But, pick the wrong person to steal first from. I mean, Secretary Noem's a strong secretary. I know I've been talking about the success of men and women of the Border Patrol and ICE, but under her strong leadership, she's a game changer. So I'm happy to work with her, despite the media I've read that me and Kristi Noem had differences. Me and Kristi Noem are attached to the hip. There's no daylight between us. We're both going to push the president's agenda. She's a strong secretary, and I'm glad she's in here. And I'm glad, but again, that illegal alien, pick the wrong person, steal first from.
Mary Margaret, go ahead.
Thank you, Caroline. I have 2 questions, one for Mr. Holman, one for you on the White House Correspondents' Center. I'd like to start with you, though, Tom Holman. This list has a very high number of sexual assaults on a child. Can you comment on that and why there's so many crimes against children committed by illegals in this country?
I don't know why. It's sick. It's the worst crime in the world is when you sexually assault a child. I mean, the most innocent of us all. But that's why I made a statement that one time I was going to go to Boston and bring hell with me. And the media went crazy. At Tom Holman says we're going to go to Boston and bring hell with us. I was going to bring hell to illegal aliens that rape children. There's not more heinous crime. And as you can see, the amount of child rapists we've arrested under this administration, that could have been arrested under the Biden administration. They were out there. They had their final orders. They were out there. But they didn't go look for them. They're too busy releasing millions of illegal aliens in this country. And the numbers prove it. The removal numbers of criminals was the lowest. ICE had the lowest number of removals in the history of ICE under Joe. At the same time, you had historic illegal immigration on board. ICE had the lowest numbers in the history of the agency. That shows the difference between the 2 administrations. We're looking for every one of them. People want to know, okay, when am I going to retire for the 3rd time? I'll retire when every public safety threat, national security threat, child rape is eradicated from this country. That's when I'll rest.
Thank you so much. And then Caroline, really quick. Alex Thompson said at the White House Correspondents' Center, and I'm going to read his quote, President Biden's decline and his cover-up by the people around him is a reminder that every White House, regardless of the party, is capable of deception. We, myself included, missed a lot of this story, and some people trust us less because of it. Can you comment on those remarks and whether you agree with that assessment?
I do agree with that assessment from Alex Thompson, who I understand won an award for writing a story months and perhaps years after the American people already knew that story to be true. Millions of Americans watched our mentally incompetent president struggle with his day-to-day duties of this office. We watched our country be ran into the ground as a result, and nobody in the media wanted to write about that, talk about it. There were many reporters, I will say, right-leaning reporters who did talk about that, who didn't get awards, didn't get coverage. In fact, they were lambasted for their coverage. And I remember being on President Trump's campaign, talking about Joe Biden's clear mental incompetence and being accused by people in this room of manufacturing deep fake videos, trying to persuade the public into not believing what they saw with their own eyes for many years. And I think it's about time the legacy media finally admits that was one of the greatest cover-ups and scandals that ever took place in American history, and certainly it did contribute to the decline in the trust that Americans have for the legacy media. Peter, which, by the way, is why we've made many changes to this briefing room in this White House. It's long overdue. Peter, go ahead.
Thank you. A few things. You guys arrested a Milwaukee County circuit judge for allegedly helping illegal immigrants get away. As you guys look at other judges, would you ever arrest somebody higher up on the judicial food chain, like a federal judge or even a Supreme Court justice?
Well, that's a hypothetical question. Again, I defer you to the Department of Justice for individuals that they are looking at or individual cases. But let's be clear about what this judge did. She obstructed federal law enforcement who were looking for an illegal alien in her courthouse. She showed that illegal alien the door to evade law enforcement officials. That is a clear-cut case of obstruction. You don't have to be a lawyer to understand that. And so anyone who is breaking the law or obstructing federal law enforcement officials from doing their jobs is putting themselves at risk of being prosecuted, absolutely.
You guys have at least 18 written trade proposals. We still don't know who they are from or what they contain. What is the holdup with that?
There's no holdup. We're working around the clock. The trade team is working all day. I was on the phone late last night with Secretary Lutnick. I was on the phone this weekend as well with Secretary Bessent. I mean, the entire team is working 24/7 to get these trade deals done. And I think you'll be hearing more about them this week. I don't want to get ahead of the trade team or the president in announcing potential deals, but certainly I can assure the American public that this administration is full speed ahead in cutting good and fair trade deals on behalf of the American worker.
And one more. After the president's Truth Social post, the Browns finally took Shadur Sanders. Does the president think he deserves credit for Sanders getting picked? And does he think going to the Browns is better than being undrafted?
Hey, all I will say is the president put out a statement, and a few rounds later he was drafted. So I think the facts speak for themselves on that one, Peter. We'll go to the back row in the middle, to the blonde.
Yes,
Hello.
President Trump has said that Secretary Hegseth won't get it together. Does he think that Hegseth doesn't have it together right now?
Look, the president has made his position on Secretary Hegseth quite clear. He absolutely has confidence in the secretary's ability to lead the Pentagon. It's why he nominated him for this position. It's why the Senate voted to confirm him in this position. And look at the success that DOD has had thus far. Their successful operation against the Houthi terrorists in the Middle East. If you look at the recruitment and retention levels for all branches of our armed forces are on the incline, which is exactly what this president intended to do. Secretary Hegseth has completely wiped out DEI from the Pentagon as well. And so he's going to remain focused on standing up for our war fighters, on implementing President Trump's peace through strength foreign policy agenda abroad, and the president supports him in his role. Sure.
Many are wondering how these 10 or 20 million people are working. Is there some efforts to clamp down on employment because they're working somewhere to keep staying here?
The number of worksite enforcement actions have tripled this year, and it's going to triple again. Because in sanctuary jurisdictions especially, if we can't arrest a bad guy in safety and security of a county jail, they're going to release him into the community. That means we go into the community. If we can't arrest him in the community, we'll arrest him at their work site. We got to do what we got to do to arrest public safety threats. There's no sanctuary for public safety threats in this country. So worksite enforcement is going to increase even more than it already has. And another reason for worksite, the last administration stopped worksites. Where's the number one place we find victims of trafficking, victims of forced labor trafficking in work sites? So not only are we going to enforce the law on work sites, we're going to save victims of trafficking. That's another reason we've increased force enforcement.
Well, go ahead, Brian, sure. We'll take one more question.
This is for Mr. Holman. We all walk by these heinous yard signs that along Pebble Beach. What is some of the feedback that your ICE agents are getting in the field from the community as they remove these individuals from their families, their neighborhood, their schools, or all the places in their community? What's been the reaction that your ICE agents have gotten from the people who live amongst these individuals?
The morale of ICE and the Border Patrol is at all-time high because they're getting to uphold the oath they took and they're enforcing the law. Border Patrol and the Biden administration, I met with hundreds of them. They felt like Uber drivers and tourist agents. These men and women join the ranks of ICE and Border Patrol to enforce the law, make the community safer, and protect national security. I hear it all the time. There's a lot of people in this country who don't like me. I don't care. But when I walk through an airport, I have many people walking up to me and thank me for what I'm doing, and I'm not taking credit for anything. The success of the border and immigration enforcement is President Trump and the men and women wearing that uniform. God bless each and every one of them. But I take a pleasure in seeing it because in 40 years of doing this job, people always want to say, why are you so emotional when you testify? Why are you so emotional on the network? Because if they wore my shoes for 40 years, they'd understand why I'm emotional. I've talked to little girls as young as 9 years old that were raped multiple times by the cartel members. And when you get to your knees and you talk to that little girl and everything innocent and pure has been ripped from her, when you listen to the Lincoln Riley, 17 men, that young lady fighting for her life, don't just think, okay, a young woman died. Think of how she died, the terror that she went through, and these children are sexually assaulted. I stood in the back of a tractor trailer and 19 dead people at my feet that baked to death. Illegal immigration is not a victimless crime. And so every sick person we take off the streets, especially child rapists, it makes this country much safer. Every illegal alien we arrest, public safety threat, one at a time makes this country safer. But I got one thing I need to say real quick before I leave.
Take your notes from me, Tom.
Take my notes from me. I'm going to read it. I don't want a misinterpretation when I'm reading to you. The registration requirements under 8 U.S.C. 1302. If you're an illegal alien in the United States, this message is for you. You cannot hide from ICE. We're actively looking for you. Federal law requires every alien in the United States who has been present in the United States more than 30 days needs to register. For those 14 years or older, you need to be fingerprinted with the Department of Homeland Security. Federal law requires every alien in the United States to tell DHS in writing if you have a change of address within 10 days of changing that address. Failing to register with DHS and failure to tell DHS about your new address are criminal offenses and they're being treated as such. Starting today. Make no mistake, if you're in the country illegally and you fail to do what the law requires, we will prosecute you, you will go to jail, then we'll deport you. Second law, penalties for failure to depart, 8 U.S.C. 1253. If you're alien inside the United States, you have a final order. This message for you. If you have a final order, the Trump administration is committed to enforcing our immigration laws, especially for those aliens who have received final orders of deportation. There are currently around 1.4 million illegal aliens who've been ordered removed, but remain here in violation of the law. We will aggressively prosecute, consistent with long-standing law, those aliens for failing or refusing to depart, or who takes other related actions aimed at hindering their removal. You cannot open the door, you cannot answer our questions, you cannot open your car door, you can consider to evade law enforcement. If you fail to leave the United States after receiving a removal order, we can and will issue monetary fines up to $998 a day. Evading your arrest, knowing you have a final order or removal, is a criminal offense. We will prosecute, then we'll deport you. Get your affairs in order. If you're in the country illegally, work with ICE, go to CBP 101 map, and leave on your own. Because we have to find you, deport you, and prosecute you. You have a bar placed under you, and you won't come back to this country. You won't be able to come back on a visitor's visa, a tourist visa. You have U.S. citizen child can petition for you. If you're in this country, well, you get your affairs in order and work with us and get yourself removed from this country. That's what law requires, and we're going to enforce that law.
Thank you so much, Tom. You can get back to work now. Look, he's already leaving. He's got a lot to do, a lot of illegal immigrants to deport. But thanks everyone for joining us bright and early this morning. As I said at the top, we will do this again tomorrow to talk about the economy, which is another promise made and kept by the president. And I'll be joined by the Secretary of Treasury, Scott Bessent, 8:30 tomorrow morning. Today, the president is welcoming Super Bowl champions, Philadelphia Eagles. If you have any Philly fans, that will be at 4 o'clock. And then the president will sign those executive orders I spoke of and a few others at 5 p.m. So we'll see you all later. Have a great day.
Wayfair's biggest sale of the year is here. Right now, score up to 80% off at Wayfair with free shipping on everything. Don't wait. Shop Wayday now through April 28th.
Wayfair, every style, every home. When they feel Aruba's happiness, it becomes their happiness. Which then becomes your happiness.
In the meantime, I do want to head out over to the White House. That is where we are hearing from President Donald Trump. He is signing some executive orders right now, so let's pop up the audio here and listen in.
Amazing people. Okay, why don't we start just by, we're going to be signing some executive orders.
Yes, sir.
And if you want to discuss it for a second, Will, and then we'll have a couple of people speak. And it's my honor to help you. What they did to you is ridiculous.
I would agree.
How long has this been going on?
Well, there's a lot of this, but this one's been going on since 2008, yeah, and it just gets bigger and bigger.
And they basically took away your fishing rights.
Yeah,
Yeah.
they cashed my tax check.
Was that Obama and Biden?
2014 was when they expanded to the 500,000 square miles. Obama signed that in 2014.
It's so sad. It's so crazy.
91 and Obama.
It's too bad they won't pick it up properly, but it's so sad. Go ahead.
So as Peter said, sir, it started in 2009, continuing in 2014. A very large part of the American exclusive economic zone in the Pacific, amounting in total to 500,000 square miles of the American economic zone has been, exclusive economic zone has been held off limits to commercial fishing. We have a proclamation for your signature today, sir, that would reopen this area for commercial fishing by American flagged vessels only. This is a huge deal to the island populations in the Pacific, and we hope that this will lead to a new dawn for the American fishing industry in the Pacific Islands.
Could you, Captain, say a few words about how ridiculous this has been, that you had to live like this?
Well, we operate of American Samoa. We supply to Starkist, American company, does military packs.
Yeah.
And it's all right. The U.S. has the biggest EEZ in the Pacific, and yet we can't fish there. And it seems unfair, and I'm glad that we're opening it up so that we can feed our people.
And tell them how large an area we're talking about.
The Pacific is big, but this is a huge area. Again, the U.S. has the biggest EEZ in the Pacific.
And
It's an area
and
of
it's
3 Californias.
It's an area the size of 3 Californias. They can't fish there. And so what do? How do you fish? They took away your livelihood.
Well, we fish in the high seas, and then we have to pay to fish in other
Now, the high
people's
seas would mean more danger, right? Is there more danger in the high seas?
Not really, it's just a
Far away.
it's a bigger area, and
So how far do you have to travel to get to fish?
the boat carries a lot of fish, so it goes until it's full, basically. But it's good to have plenty of fishing grounds.
To get out to where you have to go from 7 days.
It can be as close as 4 days, but it's a little bit of a jaunt, yeah. And
That's a little bit, I'd say. So you'll travel from 4 to 7 days.
Just to get to the fishing ground.
Just to get to the area that you're allowed to fish. And is that as fertile an area as the area that you're not allowed to fish in? Or?
Well, the Western Pacific in a whole is 80% of the world's tuna comes from the Western Pacific. So U.S. has a huge EEZ there. There's also the island countries, but it's a big area.
So they took away very fertile grounds.
Very fertile, yeah.
This is so crazy. What would you like to say? Go ahead.
Such an honor to do this for these people. This is just crazy. You just tell me, when did this start? When was it? When did
It started back in 2008. But thank you, Mr. President, for this great announcement, and thank you so much for your awesome leadership in giving back to American Samoa what had been taken away from us without even consulting with our leaders and people at that time. And,
They just one day just took away 3 Californias.
yes. And so this is such a wonderful gift to American Samoa. And of course, it's also Holy Week beginning today. And so thank you for returning to our indigenous people this wonderful gift of our traditional fishing grounds.
It's such an honor to do this. You know, normally I say things and it's nice and everything's good. You get more water in the shower head and things like that. This is such an honor. What they've done to you people is incredible. It's like, it's so terrible. Well, you have to travel 4 days in a boat to fish. And it's usually 7 days, I was told before, but 4 days to 7 days in order to fish. And you were there a long time before we were, right?
Yes. Yes, for centuries.
Like I would say, yeah, thousands of years.
Mr. President, you have another fishery in the Pacific Ocean. This is the purse seine fishery that fishes for canned tuna, and then the fishery in Hawaii fishes for fresh tuna. And so there are 150 vessels, and you're opening up Johnston Island, which is very close to Hawaii, makes it a lot easier for them to fish. Because of the
even Hawaii.
Well, yes, of course. You're helping the entire fleet, and most of our fish are sold on the mainland. We also fish for swordfish, and when we have too many regulations for our swordfish fishery, you get swordfish from Peru, Brazil, and all those other places that don't have the same management measures that we have in the United States. So we are very grateful in Hawaii for this, the fishermen that we just, it's fantastic.
So what's the difference? You say canned tuna.
Right, you have two different U.S. fisheries there.
Yeah, but the same tuna.
Different. No, that's a skipjack, albacore, and yellowfin, and then.
So albacore is canned tuna, right?
Right.
I know that from.
You see the can. So our fishery fishes for the sashimi quality fish, so it's all fresh. It's an ice fishery, and it's been around since what started in the early 1900s. And
well, it's been around for millions of years.
Right, exactly.
Long before us.
Right, exactly.
That's great.
So, that's where you're getting your sashimi and your swordfish from. Most of the swordfish that you eat on the mainland comes from our fishery.
They shut down also areas off Maine, the Maine lobster.
Oh, yes,
And I think we're gonna have to open that one up really quickly too. But we did it, and then after the election, which was totally rigged, they went out and they put it back again. It was like 500 square miles or some ridiculous thing like that. And Canada fishes there, but we're not allowed to. Can you imagine? They restricted it, but Canada fishes there. Please.
Mr. President, this is such a great honor. Today in American Samoa, we're celebrating the 125th Flag Day. It's the first day celebrating when the U.S. flag was first raised there. This very moment, they're celebrating that. So this is a monumental occasion for the people of American Samoa, and we are truly.
So this is a big thing.
This because we're a tuna-dependent economy. 99.5% of our exports is tuna.
99.5%? What about the other half?
And then about 80% of our private employment is related to the tuna industry. So yes, this is a big thing for the territory.
Right, what's this going to do in terms? It's so interesting to me. It's so horrible and so stupid. It's so stupid. We're talking about a massive ocean, and they're forced to travel 4 to 7 days to go and fish in an area that's not as good and is probably a little more dangerous, the whole thing. So, how is this going to affect your business? It's going to be many more, you're going to be able to do much more business, I would think, right?
Yes, we would think that this would definitely result in more fish deliveries, and more fish deliveries is more economic gains for the territory.
Tell us what happens when you say China and other people steal your fish. In other words, you're forced to go to areas that are very dangerous.
Well, because of the monuments and overlays of sanctuaries, our fishermen mostly fish on the high seas.
And if you look at Global Watch, you will see China, Japan, Korea, and Taiwan all fishing on our very edge of the 200-mile zone. So our fishing, we're in competition with them. And also, you know, their dumping of their fish on U.S. markets lowers the price for our fishermen. And that's another difficult thing that we hope you'll take care of soon.
And what about the stealing of your fish?
Well, you're competing with tuna in a very competitive market, right? So they're capped right outside, like you said, they're capped right outside our EEZ.
And what happens?
And they're taking our fish because it's migratory, tuna is migratory.
Because we can't fish in our zone, the fish goes to whoever.
And they come in and they get kind of most of them. They take the fish. That's a common, well-documented problem. Does anybody, I mean, it's so interesting. Even you have to find this one interesting. So by doing this, we're gonna give you back your lives. And you've been doing this for thousands of years in this area. And along comes Biden and Obama, and they say you can't do it anymore, right? This is fish baby fish. Yeah. So, what's the level of popularity, and this is a risky question, but what's the level of popularity of Trump on Samoa versus the Democrats?
77%.
For Trump?
Poll shows for Trump. Yes,
Wow.
that's right. 77%.
Well, they're going to 90 tomorrow.
Yes. Or to 100.
Well, it's an honor. I'm not doing it for that. I'm doing it because it's just an honor. Here's one of the boats in there. Look how beautiful that is done. They use it for a beautiful cruise. It takes 7 days before they can do the first fish. Can you believe it? So now you'll be able to do it like almost immediately, right?
We get much closer, absolutely. So if the fish is there, we can make more trips and employ more people.
Do you know through sonar, radar, everything, do you know where the fish are? I mean, can you see that?
You get educated guesses, so you get all kinds of different reports, plankton and all kinds of stuff, and they can.
It's a beautiful life. You wouldn't choose any other life, right?
It's a very unique life. I love what I do. I really do.
I mean, if you could have a life like some beautiful leisurely life in Washington, D.C., and then you monk when you go to work, but other than that, you love politics. If you could live in the White House, you'd take exactly.
Might take it under consideration.
Let's do this, right? That's an honor. You've seen that signature, 100 years auto pen. You know, like Biden uses auto pen. I think we're
We have one more also relating to fisheries, sir. This is an executive order on seafood competitiveness. Currently, we have two basic problems here. One is that the American seafood industry is dramatically overregulated. Our fisheries are dramatically overregulated. The other is that we have unfair trade practices from our foreign trading partners relating to the seafood industry. So this executive order is going to attempt to address both of those. The Department of Commerce, other federal departments and agencies are going to work with the fisheries to establish common sense regulatory reforms.
How long will that take?
I think we're expecting to move as quickly as we can. Yes, sir.
You know what I mean, you know exactly what we're talking about already, right? It's crazy, the regulation. Secretary, I'd like you to fast track that. Howard, please.
Sure. So you just heard us, the economic zone around Hawaii and Samoa is huge, and it's exclusively ours. So why wouldn't we have our fishermen fish there? I mean, imagine saying our own fishermen, every country in the world, they all fish the 200 miles off their coast, and we were stopping our own fishermen from going off the coast. It's totally the opposite of common sense. That's why President Trump has changed it. Now let's talk about regulation. If you're not even going to let them fish, imagine the regulations that have been written to stop our fishermen from just surviving and thriving. We have the greatest coasts in the world with the greatest fishermen in the world, and we need to let them do their great jobs, raise and capture fish, bring them to our tables, Have America have the greatest fish in the world, which we have, and then let them export all these other countries, right? They stop us from exporting. That's going to be over with your leadership and your trading policies. We're going to open all of these markets, and we're going to let our fishermen thrive and prosper, and we are going to have lower cost fish, more of it, and the freshest fish in the world. And this is just common sense for the United States of America.
So could I ask, it's so interesting. So you take these massive areas of water, and other countries are allowed to fish in them, right?
No, they sneak in, they poach.
So they're not allowed, but they do it because they don't care.
They fish in their own zones, so we're systematically disadvantaging our fishermen by not allowing them to fish in parts of our exclusive economic zones, while other countries have their own exclusive economic zones, and they're fishing the heck out of those.
So they're totally benefiting.
Now that you're allowing the U.S. fishing fleet to fish, they also serve as observers. And when they see poachers, they report them to the authorities. And so they are a big help to the U.S. Coast Guard. And so it's great for our U.S. food security.
We should have a trade surplus in fish, and we have a big trade deficit.
Crazy.
Because of all this, it's just crazy. Nothing.
Okay.
Familiar.
This is an easy one.
Very easy.
Hi, Mom. This is an easy one. This is crazy, huh?
About 80% of the seafood in the U.S. is imported.
So imagine that, we import seafood, and we have the greatest coastal fishing in the world.
Okay, so in Maine, they do something similar. I think it's like 500 miles or something, some crazy thing. And Canada goes and they fish there, other people fish there, Europe fishes there. The Maine lobster. You can't get Maine lobsters because Maine's forced to go for days out to some other area that's not as good. We have to free that up too.
We'll have that on the desk next week.
The Maine lobster, right? It's incredible.
You did it last time, and they undid it.
Canada fishes there, and we're not allowed to, yeah. I did it last time in Maine, and they undid it, that's why we have to stay president for a long time. Thank you, everybody, what an honor, it's a great honor, thank you, sir.
Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you, Mr. President. Thank you very much. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. President.
Great job. Beautiful. Yes, looks like a real athlete right there.
I get it.
Mr. President, a short time ago, the Supreme Court agreed to hear oral arguments in the case about ending birthright citizenship. How confident are you that the court will rule in your favor and allow that order to end birthright citizenship to go forward?
Well, you're just telling me that for the first time. I am so happy. I think the case has been so misunderstood. That case, birthright citizenship, is about slavery. If you look at the details of it, the signings of it, everything else, that case is all about slavery. And if you view it from that standpoint, people understand it. But for some reason, lawyers don't talk about it, the news doesn't talk about it. That's not about tourists coming in and touching a piece of sand and all of a sudden they're a citizenship. They're a citizen. That is all about slavery. And even look at the dates on which it was signed. It was right at that era, right after the Civil War. And if you look at it that way, the case is an easy case to win. And I hope the lawyers talk about birthright, citizenship, and slavery, because that's what it was all about. And it was a very positive, it was meant to be positive. And they use it now instead, not for slavery, they use it for people that come into our country and they walk in and all of a sudden they become citizens and they pay a lot of money to different cartels and others. It's all about slavery, and if you look at it that way, we should win that case. Okay.
Mr. President, we have a great relationship with the president of El Salvador. Will you ask him to release Abrego Garcia so that we can facilitate his return here to the United States? And do you believe he deserves due process here?
Well, I must tell you, I have to refer again to the lawyers. I'll have to do what they asked me to do. I had heard that there were a lot of things about a certain gentleman, perhaps it was that gentleman, that would make that case be a case that's easily winnable on appeal. So we'll just have to see. I'm going to have to respond to the lawyers.
Mr. President, we're learning that there are now 2 deceased following that shooting at Florida State University. Following in amid that, is there any changes that you want to see to gun legislation? Anything you see broken with gun laws in our
Well,
country?
I'm gonna have to, look, I'm a big advocate of the Second Amendment. I have been from the beginning. I protected it. And these things are terrible. But the gun doesn't do the shooting, the people do. It's, you know, a phrase that's used probably too often. I will tell you that it's a shame. I'm just hearing about it now. I just hear about it. I know the area very well. I know the school very well. I know everything about it. It's Florida. And we'll have more to say about it later. I have to
What
see
do you
what
mean when
happens.
you say there will be more to say about it?
Only in terms of what happened. As far as legislation is concerned, this has been going on for a long time. I have an obligation to protect the Second Amendment. I ran on the Second Amendment among many other things, and I will always protect the Second Amendment.
Mr. President, President of the United Kingdom, there were reports that you're going to stay with the King in September. Can you
Yes.
confirm that? What are you looking forward to?
Well, I was invited by the King and by the country, great country, they're gonna do a second, as you know, a second fest. And that's what it is, it's a fest, and it's beautiful. And it's the first time it's ever happened to one person. And the reason is that we have two separate terms. And it's an honor to be, you know, I'm a friend of Charles. I have great respect for King Charles and the family, William. We have just really just a great respect for the family. And it's a very great honor that, and I think they're setting a date for September.
Is it going to be a smaller visit initially and then a bigger state visit to follow after? Is that the plan?
Yeah, they say that it's going to be, I don't know how it can be bigger than the last one. The last one was, as you know, was incredible. But they say it's going to be even more important. So it's a great honor to be so chosen.
President Trump, yesterday you spoke with Japan. Is the Nippon Steel deal part of the tariff negotiations? Did you discuss that with them?
It could be, but I doubt it. I mean, I think we're going to view it separately. We want U.S. Steel to remain in the hands of the United States and people from the United States. And great respect for Japan, but we don't want a foreign country buying U.S. Steel. U.S. Steel was one of our great companies of the world. When you go back 80 years, and it was the biggest, strongest, most powerful company in the world. And we're going to make it very strong and powerful again without Nippon. But if Nippon wants to come in, and I hear they're working on it very hard. I have great respect for Nippon Steel. I know a lot about it. But they can invest and they can do lots of things, partnerships. But we want to have U.S. Steel remain in this country.
So is that a stipulation you would put on these tariff negotiations?
I guess we could talk about it with regard to tariffs, Howard. I mean, it's something that could be a part of it. But tariff negotiations are actually simpler than that. I mean, we're going to set a number and people are going to pay that number, or they're going to decide to go elsewhere if there is such a place. There really is no elsewhere, I think.
In the first term, your Attorney General apologized to Tea Party groups who have been targeted by the IRS under the Obama administration. Why is it okay for the IRS to now be looking at changing the tax status of Harvard because of policy disagreements you have with the university?
So, you know, I had dinner last night with a lot of pastors and ministers and people of faith, and there were like 32 of them, and it was beautiful in the Blue Room, and they said, "Sir, I was targeted by the IRS, and the FBI came in, sir, and I've been going through hell for years." And somebody overheard that statement, and they said, "Oh, that happened to me too." Another one overheard, "Oh, that happened to me too." It was the Biden people, and they had 7 or 8 of them. We're going to be reporting it very soon. I said, this has to be reported. These are ministers, pastors, evangelicals. They were targeted by the Biden administration, which was a disgraceful administration. Well, I was targeted more than anybody in history. I think you probably know that. I hope you admit it, but you might not. But I was targeted more than anybody in history. But it was interesting because one pastor told me, and another one heard it, "Oh, me too, and me too, me too, me too." All of a sudden they're all, and one of them spent all of his money, everything he had on lawyers, for 3 years, he said. It took place almost immediately after the election. After the election, when Biden came in, unfortunately for the country, sadly for the country. So when you ask me that question, I immediately say, let's switch it around to tell you what happened last night. And not only that, we're also finding that many people just having to do with Trump support have gone through hell. And they've used the IRS for purposes of something that's very illegal for them to have to do.
Were you trying to?
It's a very illegal, it's a very, very illegal thing to do what they did. And I think it's such a shame. That was long what?
If that was wrong, why are you considering changing the tax status of Harvard?
Because I think Harvard's a disgrace. I think what they did was a disgrace. They're obviously anti-Semitic, and all of a sudden they're starting to behave. But when you see what they were saying, what they were doing, when you see the way they took care of events, when you watch that woman, that horrendous president that ruined the image of Harvard, maybe permanently, in Congress, in the halls of Congress, when you take a look at what happened there, it was horrific. And, you know, I've looked at a lot having to do with it. I'm not involved in it. It's being handled by lawyers. I read about it just like you did. But tax-exempt status, I mean, it's a privilege. It's really a privilege. And it's been abused by a lot more than Harvard, too. By a lot more than Harvard. So we'll see how that all works out. I don't think they've made a final ruling. I don't believe they've made a final ruling, but it's something that these schools really have to be very, very careful with. Very anti-Semitic when you take a look, whether it's Columbia, Harvard, Princeton, I don't know what's going on, but when you see how badly they've acted, and in other ways also, so we'll be looking at it very strongly.
Subject on the tax-exempt status subject, what are the other groups you'd like to see that status removed from? Could we expect an exemption?
Well, we'll be making some statements, but it's a big deal, and they're so rich and so strong, and then they go so bad. They've earned so much by being a member of this country, you know, a member of this group, this beautiful group of people in this country, and then they go and they abuse their power like that. I think it's very sad.
Are we talking about immigrant rights groups, environmental rights groups?
Could be. I mean, look, environmental. I have a group named Crew. You ever hear of it? I think it's CREW. And they have a guy that heads Crew. It's supposed to be a charitable organization. The only charity they have is going after Donald Trump. So we're looking at that. We're looking at a lot of things. But if you take a look at Crew, what they've done, and I think it was a very big abuse, but we're going to be finding out pretty soon.
Can you explain the disconnect between your conversations with President Xi, when those potentially could happen, and why they haven't happened yet?
Well, you don't know whether or not they've happened.
That's my question.
Yeah, I mean, I've never said whether or not they've happened, but I have a very good relationship with President Xi, and I think it's going to continue. And I would say they have reached out a number of times.
He or they?
Well, the same way. I view it very similar. It would be top levels of China. And if you knew him, you would know that if they reached out, he knew exactly. He knew everything about it. He runs it very tight, very strong, very smart. And, yeah, we're talking to China.
They've reached out in recent days or recent weeks.
Excuse me?
They've reached out since the 145% tariffs.
Oh, yeah, sure.
Do you believe
A lot.
that? Do you believe?
A lot, all the time. We're talking.
Have you talked directly to President Xi?
I don't want to say that. It's just not appropriate.
But you're speaking, sorry, has he called you directly, President Xi, or reached out? Has he spoken a conversation?
Well, you'd think it was pretty obvious that he has, but we will talk about that soon. It's not that important because honestly, we're going to have a deal. I believe we're going to have a deal with China. And if we don't, we're going to have a deal anyway because we're going to set a certain target and that's going to be it. Do you have anything to say about that, Howard?
I think our tariff policy around the world has every country in the world coming in and talking to us. It is incredible. We had country after country in yesterday. We are confident that we will work out something with China, and the president knows what he wants to do, and I think he knows it better than anybody else in the world, and we are confident that this is going to work out well, both for the United States of America. I'm sure he'll work it out with China, but the amount of other countries who are working with us is incredible. And I think it's really going to work for the American farmers, for our ranchers, for our fishermen, for our businesses. The scale of companies coming to America just every day, like even this morning we were talking about Whirlpool, and then we were talking about car companies opening. The scale of factories coming to America is mind-boggling, driven by Donald Trump's tariff policy, which has got the world coming and finally respecting the United States of America.
President Trump, you said.
And by the way, there's never been anything like it. We have at least $7 trillion of new businesses coming in. If you go back and look at others, I mean, in years they wouldn't do anything like that. So, and this is in a matter of weeks, so it's been pretty amazing.
You said we're talking, so China and the U.S. are talking
Yeah.
on tariffs.
Oh, sure.
Do you believe then that they will go higher than 125%? We've heard Chinese officials say that. And then, like, what happens if they do go higher? Do we retaliate more?
Well, at a certain point, I don't want them to go higher, because at a certain point, you make it where people don't buy. So, I may not want to go higher, or I may not want to even go up to that level. I may want to go to less, because you want people to buy. And at a certain point, people aren't going to buy. And it's actually up to 145%, because you have to 20.
You previously said that you would consider reducing tariffs on China to get a TikTok deal done. Is that still on the table as of now?
Well, we have a deal for TikTok, but it'll be subject to China, so we'll just delay the deal till this thing works out one way or the other. And I think it's a good deal for China, and the TikTok deal is very good. TikTok is good for China, and I think they'd like to see us do a deal, especially the deal that we have pretty much done with some of the best companies in the world.
If they agree to sign the deal, would you take that into consideration?
I think it would be something we discuss, because it's a natural. If we're making a deal, I guess we'll spend 5 minutes to talk about TikTok. It wouldn't take very long.
Can you give us a sense of how far along these negotiations are with China? Are they in the early stages, or are you inching closer now to actually making a deal on tariffs?
I think that we will make a deal with China. I think we've had some very good talks, but we will have some very good talks remaining. And, I view it, and some people say, oh, rush. I think we have a lot of time. I think we have plenty of time. But we have very, very good, you saw Japan was here yesterday. We had Italy today. We had a great conversation with the Prime Minister. We've had very good talks yesterday with Mexico. Talking with everybody. The problem is it's only so many hours in the day. I think we're going to make a deal with China. We're going to make a deal with everybody. And if we don't make a deal, we'll just set a target, and we'll live with that, and it'll be fine.
How much time do you think?
I would think over the next 3 or 4 weeks, I think maybe the whole thing could be concluded. You have to understand, we're a big, if you think of us as a big, beautiful department store before that business was destroyed by the internet. We're a big, beautiful store, and everybody wants a piece of that store. China wants it, Japan wants it, Mexico, Canada, they live off it, those two. Without us, they wouldn't have a country. And everybody wants a piece. And at a certain point, if we don't make a deal, we'll just set a limit. We'll set a tariff. We'll set some parameters, and we'll say, come in and shop. They may not like that, and they may find it, or the market may find it too high. More likely the market, but the market may find it too high, or the country may find it too high. Then they'll come back and say, well, we think this is too high, and we'll negotiate, or they're going to say something else. They're going to say, well, let's see what happens. But they always have a right not to do it. So they can say, well, we don't want it, so we're not going to shop there. We're not going to shop in the store of America. We have something that nobody else has, and that's the American consumer. And I had the most successful 4-year period in the history of this country, and I think we're going to blow it away this time. But there is a little bit of a transition, and we're going to have that little transition, and it's not much of a transition. If you look right now, we're getting 25% on cars, right? We're getting 25% on steel. We're getting 25% on aluminum. We're going to have some other things that we're going to be adding in the not too distant future because we want them to be made here. The medicines, the drugs, pharmaceuticals are going to be done, and computer chips, et cetera, and because of that, we have the biggest computer companies in the world coming in from Taiwan and other places, and they're building in Arizona and lots of other places. We're number one in AI by far. We're leading China by a lot, by tremendous amounts. We're going to supply electricity at levels never supplied before. They're going to build their own electric. We're going to let them become a utility, essentially. And it's going to be amazing for the country. They're going to build their own electric plants. We have to double up our electricity to remain number one in AI. We're going to have to double up our electricity take our whole country. We're going to have to double up our electricity. Think of that. And probably even triple it up. And we're going to let them build their own electric plants with their plant that they're building for the AI or whatever they're doing. Never been done before. We're going to get them quick approvals. Going to be very clean, going to be very nice. And we're going to get them very fast approvals. And people are investing in this country like they've never invested before. Thank you very much, everybody.
Let's listen on live now from Fox.
Thank you very much for being here. We have largely an energy group today. We're looking to be very energy dominant, and we will be in a very short order. These are great professionals, but before we do that, we'll be signing an executive order having to do with COVID and schools. Lindsay?
Yep. So this first executive order, it prohibits federal funding for COVID-19 mandates, vaccine mandates in schools.
Okay, and that will meaning they want to clear that up,
Yep.
the discrepancy.
So any schools that require students to be vaccinated with COVID-19 shot, then there's no more federal funding, so.
Okay. Okay, that solves that problem.
So will the Department of Education have to handle that?
Yes, it'll go through the Department of Education. Okay? Thanks.
Can I make one comment, Mr. President?
Yes, please.
As a father, we should have parental freedom to decide what vaccines our kids take, as opposed to school systems and governors forcing upon the people that love these kids the most, which is the parents. So thank you for signing that.
Great, thank you very much. People wanted that very badly. Okay.
Okay, and here is an executive order establishing the National Energy Dominance Council. So that will be chaired by the Secretary of the Interior, Mr. Burgum, and the Vice Chair, Chris Wright. And so this will reduce costs with respect to energy, establish American independence with energy, and also unleash energy dominance.
Good, thank you. And this is a big deal. We have more energy than any other country, and now we're unleashing it, to put it nicely. And I'd like to ask Doug, you're going to be heading it up. You and Chris, would you say a few words about it, Chris?
Yeah, absolutely, sir. Good afternoon. President Trump wisely understood that under the Biden administration, there was a war against American energy, and today that war officially has ended. President Trump on day one declared a national energy emergency. And this is a real emergency because under the Biden administration restricted the production of oil and gas. Production's still coming, but when you stop holding leases, when you take 625 million acres of land out of ocean land, out of production possibilities through an executive order, you're really restricting the balance sheet of America. But today, as President Trump said, this is unleashed. The National Energy Dominance Council will be made up, all the folks that are standing beside me here, other cabinet leaders and many more, represent President Trump's wise decision that we need a whole of government approach to unwind. The Biden administration had a whole of government approach that had the war against U.S. energy. Now we need to turn that around 180 degrees and unleash that potential. We've got to unleash it from the Gulf of America all the way up to Alaska. We have amazing resources in this country, and we haven't been getting a return on them. Many of these are under public lands. The interior has 500 million acres of surface, 700 million acres of subsurface minerals, critical minerals, and offshore close to 2 billion acres. And that balance sheet is the biggest balance sheet in the world, and it's been completely underutilized. Everybody knows we have 36 trillion in debt as a country, but no one knows how many hundreds of trillions of dollars of assets we have. And President Trump is asking us to to go get a return on that investment for the American people. And with that, we're gonna have prosperity at home with lower prices, and we're also gonna have peace abroad. Because the wars that we've been engaged in, or our allies have been fighting over the past few years, have been funded by the oil sales of our adversaries. And so we have an opportunity, and we also are in an AI arms race with China. The only way we win that is with more electricity. And we also have an energy emergency in terms of electricity. Too much intermittent, unreliable, not enough base load. We've been shutting down the base load that we have. President Trump is going to reverse that, and it's going to allow us to win the AI arms race, which is the most important thing that we have to do relative to our future. So with that, I want to say again, thank you to President Trump, and I want to thank my fellow members of the Energy Council here. I'm going to kick it over to the Vice Chair, Chris Wright, who's the Secretary of the Department of Energy.
Thank you, Secretary Burgum. Today is truly a great day for our country today. And Secretary Burgum laid out so many of the problems the last 4 years. If you put barriers in front of energy, you make it more expensive, you make it less reliable, make it harder to do business here, and harder for our consumers to pay their bills. With this fantastic action from our president, we now have authority across the government to lean in to fix these problems. And I'll start out with one specific right away. This morning I signed our first LNG export license, unpausing the pause in action. The Commonwealth LNG project that'll be on the Gulf Coast in Louisiana is now officially ready to go. This will be a large construction project for American workers. It'll draw demand for more American energy production that'll be shipped overseas to our allies. Many more of those to come. We're also working aggressively to roll back standards that have made appliances more expensive for Americans, and dishwashers that take 2 hours long and don't get your dishes clean. Nobody likes that. That's about standing in the way. And with this President Trump and our new National Energy Dominance Council, there's so many things we can do to make American lives better, bring down costs and grow opportunities. And with that, I'm going to kick it over to a fellow member of the council, our Administrator of the EPA, Lee Zeldin.
Thank you, Secretary, and honored to be serving on the Energy Dominance Council. At EPA, we're doing our part to power the great American comeback. And President Trump has made it clear that he wants EPA to be doing our job to ensure that we are unleashing energy dominance however we can help, that we are assisting in making America the AI capital of the world, that we are pursuing permitting reform, that we are helping to bring back American auto jobs. This is the mandate of the American public. The Trump mandate, it was clear, and the guidance from President Trump to me when he asked me, thankfully, for the opportunity for us to be able to serve together in partnership to unleash energy dominance. This is a moment that we must meet. To that end, it is important to note that the prior Biden-Harris EPA issued a waiver to California for tailpipe emissions. This was a rule that should have been submitted to Congress. We will submit it to Congress. Congress will have the opportunity through the Congressional Review Act to make that waiver go away. We will do everything in our part to help the American people to make life in America more affordable. The golden age of American success is upon us. If you're excited about the last 3 weeks, that was just a taste of the main event, the entree to come, the next 4 years being the greatest term in the history of the American presidency. With that, I'd like to introduce Sean Duffy.
Thank you. So, first of all, thank you for the work on dishwashers. We use more water to wash our dishes before we put them in the dishwasher. We're not saving water, we're using more water, so thank you for that. But I'm also joining the EPA. We've introduced our rules to start to look at the CAFE standards. So we're looking at how much it costs for end users when they put gas in their car. And the Biden era standards are costing billions of dollars in taxes and carbon credits, which drive up the cost of vehicles. And so we're going to remedy that, rectify it, and make sure we're bringing down the cost of the car, number one. Number two, if I can just mention, Mr. President, per your direction, we are going to move forward with a permitting process for the Texas Gulf Link deep water port, making sure we can move energy in and out of the country. So that was held up for 5 years. And it was stonewalled, bureaucrats that's gotten in the way. We're now gonna move forward with that, making sure we have great oil infrastructure in the country.
Great, thanks.
And Howard Lutnick?
Yes. So, the nanny state, you're feeling the end of the nanny state. From straws made of paper to regulation endlessly harming Americans and holding us back. It slows down our production and manufacturing, which we were talking about with the Prime Minister of India yesterday. You're hearing that about energy dominance. It's going to go away. We're going to care about Americans. The Trump administration and this president cares about Americans, and you're going to feel it change. You're going to feel the price of energy coming down. You're going to feel prices coming down. You're going to feel an explosion. The golden age of manufacturing of America has always been there. It's just been stifled by regulation, and that time is over.
Thank you very much, Howard. Please.
Mr. President, I just want to say that you built such an incredible team, and Secretary and Chairman Burgum, that he's been working on this his whole life. And so what I expect you to see, sir, is action as early as next week that is going to shock people about how good it is for Americans. So thank you for your leadership, sir.
Thank you very much, Kevin. And we are also working on a project that has been under wraps for 20 years. Everybody wanted it. It's been held up by New York. It's a pipeline that will bring down the energy prices in New York and in all of New England by 50, 60, 70%. It should have been done years ago. We'll be speaking to New York, and New York is actually the biggest beneficiary because their energy costs are very high. This will reduce it very substantially. But all of the governors want this to happen, and I think it's going to happen. It's now going to happen. It's something that's would rather not have to go eminent domain. We'll do that if we have to in New York, but hopefully we won't have to do that. This again will bring down energy prices in New England by numbers that nobody can even believe, probably 50, 60%, maybe even more than that. A lot of them don't even pay energy because they have no energy. They use logs, they go out and they cut down a tree. It's really a terrible situation. So we're going to get this done, and we can have it done once we start construction. We're looking at anywhere from 9 to 12 months, if you can believe it. It's going to go very rapidly. The other thing I'd like Doug to mention, the 635 million acres that Biden so viciously took out of our net worth. If you look at it from the standpoint of a company, you talk about net worth. They've destroyed our net worth. We're putting it back. It will be back as of this afternoon. And Doug, could you mention that? All of the millions and millions of acres that he just handed back.
Yes, the executive order by President Biden that wiped out these trillions from our balance sheet. President Trump signed an executive order instructing me as the Secretary of Interior to unban that ban, and that's been accomplished. And so those are back on the U.S. balance sheet.
Okay. Sorry, which one is that?
The 625 million acres of offshore that was banned from further lease sales.
Further anything.
625 million acres is
Right.
1/3 the size of the lower 48 that was taken off our balance sheet. It's back on there now. President Trump cares about the American people. He knows that these public lands belong to the public. They don't belong to Washington bureaucrats from the prior administration. And we're going to make sure that we get a return on investment for the American people.
The amount of money that he took off our balance sheet, if you look at his balance sheet, it was incalculable. Nobody's ever seen anything like it. And he did that, I guess, in the last few days of the administration. He just wiped it out. 635 million acres, which if you sit down and look, it's like, that's a major part of the ocean. And he just gave it away and took it away. And fortunately, it wasn't done with an act of Congress or anything. And we did it in I think, very abbreviated, very quick, and very legal procedure. And it's now back on our balance sheet. It's back as part of our country. What they did was so horrible. It was just a terrible thing to do, an unbelievable thing to do. Also, they mentioned dishwashers and sinks and showers and the whole thing. We're going to get rid of those restrictions. You have many places where they have water. They have so much water they don't know what to do with it. But people buy a house, they turn on the sink and water barely comes out. They take a shower, water barely comes out. And it's an unnecessary restriction. And basically, I think that we're going to be going back to the Trump rule. We had it, and everybody was happy. and then these people came in and they restricted it again, so we're going back and we'll get it approved by Congress. In addition, we'll get it approved by Congress. So for 4 years, it's good, but we're gonna get it permanently taken care of. And again, very environmentally friendly, but we wanna be able to, when somebody turns on a sink to wash their hands or presses the button for a dishwasher, and there's barely.
I actually seen this one already, and I know a lot of people probably have. I like to stay current on, like, you know, all the stuff that he puts out there. So I'm gonna more than likely just watch something else that's more recent. Super Bowl, full speech right now. I already seen some of these stuff already. I just kind of want to see some new news, you know what I mean? So I'm gonna try to find something that I haven't necessarily seen yet. So just give me 1 second. I've seen most of them, so that's why I'm kind of like skipping through it, you know what I mean? Because I've seen most of this stuff already. So let's see something that maybe he did recently. I haven't seen this, but let me see what's going on here. I hear what Pam Bondi has to say.
With me here today, I have our great Secretary of Education, Linda McMahon, Representative Laurel Libby of the Maine State House, Linnea Saltz of IWF Women's Sports Advocate, Stephanie Turner, a fencer, Zoe Hutchison, a Maine athlete, Cassidy Carlisle, a Maine athlete, and my dear friend, you all know Riley Gaines, who has been a champion on this issue for women. Today, the Department of Justice is announcing a civil lawsuit against the Maine Department of Education. The state of Maine is discriminating against women by failing to protect women in women's sports. Pretty basic stuff.
Yep.
This is a violation of Title IX. The Department of Justice will not sit by when women are discriminated.
And how many times, guys, in the previous administration have you seen any of their representative wore a cross? Think about that. Name me one time in the previous administration where you saw any of their representative. I'm talking Joe Biden, I'm talking Jill Biden, talking Kamala Harris, her husband, the press the curly hair gay press secretary before this. Never. And they say that they're a party for the people. Tell me, when was the last time? Look back at any speech you can think of. All right? And where you've seen they openly wear a cross or openly mention the name of Jesus or mention Christianity.
Discriminated against in sports. This is about sports. This is also about these young women's personal safety. I met many of these women.
What's so funny to me, guys, is that the Democratic Party is saying they're for women and they're for this, but yet still they want to send your daughters to go get bruised up, you know what I mean, by men. They're not putting them in men's sports, but they want a man to go play in women's sports and beat up your daughters. Not gonna happen. That's why I voted Republican.
Throughout the past weeks and months. And what they have been through is horrific. We have exhausted every other remedy. We tried to get Maine to comply. We don't like standing up here and filing lawsuits. We want to get states to comply with us. That's what this is about. We have repeatedly notified Maine of its infractions and urged them to remedy the situation to protect women. We've stripped grants from Maine.
But they're holding on to what they believe.
Other departments, and we are going to continue to fight for women. Let me give you some examples. Let me give you a timeline. This
timeline I think is pretty important. So in February 2024, these are just a few examples. A biological boy started competing in women's ski races and cross-country races in Maine. He came in first in the 5K with a time that would have been 43rd among men. In February 2025, a biological boy won first place in the pole vaulting competition in Maine's indoor track and field meet. He beat every other girl by a significant margin. That qualified him for regional championships. That took a spot away from a young woman in women's sports. Shame on him.
Absolutely.
February 21st, 2025. President Trump has the governors at the White House. President Trump has the exchange with Janet Mills.
That was the lady that he told that she needs to
Issue
comply.
or response, we'll see you in court.
That's her. I remember her.
Still didn't sue.
Where he was telling everybody, hey, we're not doing this. And he asked for her by name, and she said exactly that. We'll see you in court.
They both found violations. And in March,
These people don't love your kids.
refused to comply. I want to read you this letter.
Pam Bondi need to work on her speed or speed skill or speeching skills though. She needs to be more fluent.
Attorney General to the Department of Education. We will not sign the resolution agreement. We do not have revisions or a counter proposal. We agree we are at an impasse. Nothing in Title IX or its implementing regulations prohibits schools from allowing transgender girls and women to participate on girls and women's sports teams. Well, they must not be reading the same Title IX that we're reading.
Who told you you can pee in here? Huh? Who told you you can pee in here?
We believe they are failing to protect women, and it's not only an issue in sports. It is a public safety issue. These boys are allowed to go in women's restrooms. They are allowed to go in the women's dressing rooms and get fully naked and change in biological boys and change clothes in front of these young women. Maine's leadership has refused to comply at every turn. So now we have no other choice. We are taking them to court. What we are seeking an injunction to get them to stop this, stop what they're doing. That's pretty simple. And we are seeking to have the title to the young women who rightfully won these sports. And we are also considering whether to retroactively pull all the funding that they have received for not complying in the past. And I'm so proud of these brave young women standing behind me. I see lots of parents in the front too, and I've met you. Thank you to the parents for supporting your daughters and telling them it's okay to fight back and stand up for what they believe in. Some of these young women have endured vicious injuries too as a result of boys playing in their sports. It's my honor now to introduce to you our Secretary of Education, Linda McMahon.
Morning, everyone. I don't think our case could have been stated any better than it was just presented by our Attorney General, Pam Bondi. And I thank you very much for...
I'm not quite sure if this is the wife of Vince McMahon, the WWE mogul, and this is wife Linda McMahon. I'm not quite sure if the name is similar. If anybody knows, can you guys let me know? Is this? I think this is Linda McMahon, and we all know that Trump and the McMahons have had a great relationship forever. They've been buddies. He's been on the WWE back in the days. I think this is Linda McMahon, and that family is an amazing family. This guy, just in case you don't know, they're not just wrestling family, but they've changed the lives of millions of people over the years. I used to be I used to watch wrestling religiously. I used to watch Monday Night Raw, Friday night when it was, SmackDown. I used to watch The Rock. You name it. I was The Undertaker. My favorite wrestler is what's his name? Can't remember this guy, man. He has like that big septum in his chest. Scott Steiner. Scott Steiner was like my favorite wrestler, man. He was just a take no crap from nobody. He was a super talented D1 athlete. And Linda McMahon, she knows definitely what it means. I mean, obviously, men compete in women's sports in WWE, so it's a little funny to see her here as a representative of against that. But that is the arena in which it's accepted, where a woman can enter the female wrestling and it's okay, because there's a lot of crossover. But in real life, where men and women are in their own sport, no, it's not the same. Because if a man really wants to hurt a woman in wrestling, he can really put her down in a really bad way. Because we know wrestling is stage, it's make believe. Even though wrestlers do get hurt a lot of the time, broken bones, broken neck, broken vertebrae. It's fake, but it's not fake. But a lot of it is fake. So I'm happy to see Linda McMahon contributing. She has a whole business to run. I mean, Vince does take care of the business. Triple H and the daughter and Shane McMahon, they all take care of this. And to see that these people don't have to come out and help you. These people are billionaires. Like Vince McMahon's a billionaire, Linda McMahon's a billionaire, Shane McMahon's a billionaire. These people don't have to do this. Odin, be quiet. So the fact that these people like Elon Musk, Linda McMahon, and all these people come out to really make changes to help our country, man, that's patriotic.
Your participation this morning, and I will echo Attorney General's comments about how brave these women are, these young women.
And she's a good speaker, because that's all she's done in the WWE. Pam Bondi need to work on her public speaking skills. She need to take some lessons.
Since she came on board, and we're so proud to have Riley out there as such a prominent spokesperson. So today, we're announcing a weighty development in the Title IX legislation into the Maine Department of Education. The Department of Education, analyzed Maine's Education Department for compliance with Title IX of the Education Amendments of 1972, which prohibits sex-based discrimination in any school or education program that receives federal funding. Unfortunately, our investigation has found that Maine continues to willfully violate Title IX and to strip the civil rights of female athletes in the state. And as Pam alluded as well, it's not just about their civil rights, it's about their safety. And we, after our investigation, we found we really had no other choice. We thought the warranted turning them over to the Justice Department for their further investigation. So how do we get here? On February 5th, President Trump signed the
Don't bark for food.
Out of women's sports, which directed all states and educational programs receiving federal funds to cease the practice of allowing males to compete in sports programs for women. They didn't make this up. This is the law. This is Title IX. This executive order was aimed at protecting women like fencer Stephanie Turner or volleyball player Peyton McNabb from being injured and unfairly outmatched by male athletes. President Trump didn't pull any punches. He explicitly warned Maine and Governor Janet Mills that Maine would risk losing federal funding if it continued to allow males to participate in women's sports. Governor Mills chose to openly flout Title IX compliance, telling President Trump, and I'll repeat what the general said, "We'll see you in court," and obviously we are going to. That same day, our Office for Civil Rights opened an investigation into the Maine Department of Education and Maine School Administrative District number 51 for permitting males and girls sports and denying female-only intimate facilities. The department's investigation confirmed Maine's Title IX violations, and we offered Maine leaders multiple opportunities to change their policy and to protect women in sports, and they have refused. So now as DOJ begins their enforcement actions, I hope Governor Mills will recognize that her political feud with the president will deprive the students in her state of much more than the right to fair sporting events. After all, compliance with federal civil rights law is a universal prerequisite for receiving federal funding. The Trump administration could not be any clearer to all states, sports leagues, and educational institutions. We take the violations of women's civil rights very seriously. I have 3 granddaughters, and I want to make sure that they are treated fairly and that they aren't exposed, in dressing rooms. We want to make sure that if you open women's sports or intimate facilities to males, you expose yourself to federal civil rights investigations. Governor Mills will definitely get her wish. We thank you all for being here this morning. Look forward to seeing you later.
Thank you, Secretary. I'd now like to introduce to you State Rep Laurel Libby from Maine, who has been a champion for these young women in the state of Maine. And thank you, Representative.
Thank you, Attorney General Bondi. It's unfortunate that we have to be here today because Governor Mills and legislative Democrats, along with the Maine Principals Association, continue to persist in discriminating against Maine women and girls. They are out of alignment with 2/3 of Mainers who believe that biological males have no place in girls' sports. Earlier this week, MSAD 70 School Board voted unanimously to align with Title IX. They're in alignment with 2/3 of my fellow Mainers. And I would encourage other school boards throughout Maine, I would exhort you to speak up for Maine girls similarly and vote to align with Title IX. Thank you to the Trump administration and AG Bondi for taking action on behalf of our girls and helping to ensure a safe, fair, and level playing field in Maine.
President Trump, before he was elected, this has been a huge issue for him. Pretty simple. Girls play in girls' sports, boys play in boys' sports. Men play in men's sports, women play in women's sports. He got to know a great young woman during that time named Riley Gaines, and we are all so proud and honored to have her here with us. Riley has been a champion nationally for this issue. Riley, please join us.
Well, goodness gracious, it's an honor to be here, to stand beside, of course, Secretary McMahon, Attorney General Bondi, these amazingly brave athletes, Representative Libby. But truthfully, I'm frustrated. I'm frustrated that we have to be here, that we as women have to stand before you all on national television demanding equal opportunities, demanding privacy in areas of undressing, demanding safety in our sports. Amazing to me that we are still here fighting this fight, that the Democratic Party has really doubled down, tripled down, quadrupled down on their ridiculous stance, but that's exactly what they've done. Let me tell you what sports have done in my life. Of course, in terms of athletic achievement, Secretary Crowley finished his career as a 12-time NCAA All-American, a 5-time SEC champion, actually the SEC record holder in the 200 butterfly, making him one of the fastest Americans of all time. 2-time Olympic trial qualifier, SEC Scholar Athlete of the Year, SEC Community Service Leader of the Year. The list goes on, but I didn't just really reiterate, it's a lifelong journey. It's how I met my husband. It's what gave me my lifelong friends. It taught me how to be a leader. It taught me how to set goals and work to achieve those goals. All things that, of course, I'm utilizing in my life now beyond sports, that leadership in Maine, Governor Mills, Democratic leadership really across the nation, they're demanding girls and women of. I'm sure you guys saw the clips and the visuals that surfaced following President Trump's executive order signing of this EO, barring men from participating in women's sports within any educational program that receives federal funding. And it was the most amazing thing to be there. And you have all of these young girls, I'm talking 5, 6, 7, 8 years old, they've got their jerseys on, their sports uniforms, their big bows in their hair that they wear on the soccer field. that visual means more to me than I can put into words, and that is what is at stake here. That is who Governor Mills is fighting, not Donald Trump. It's those little children, and I believe that's sick. It's regrettable what it is. They do see the value of progress, indicating we are moving in the positive forward direction. No, what Governor Mills is doing, and again, Democratic governors across the nation, is deeply regressive and utterly misogynistic. Over the past 3 years, I've had the opportunity to speak to countless girls in Maine and again across the country, countless parents, coaches who all virtually say the same thing. Why wouldn't anyone protect my athlete? Why wouldn't anyone protect my daughter? Why wouldn't anyone protect me? I've talked to girls who have lost roster spots, of course podium finishes. I've talked to girls who have been exploited and simultaneously exposed to naked men and in areas of undressing. I've talked to girls who have been severely injured in their sports due to a male player on the opposing team. For crying out loud, we have a female representative from Maine, Leavitt, you just heard from her. She didn't tell you what happened to her. She lost her ability to vote and to speak on the House floor for defending girls and women, for posting about what was happening in Maine. No, this type of oppression didn't happen in Afghanistan. No, this type of censorship didn't happen in England. It happened right here in America under Democratic leadership. Again, this isn't progress. I would describe this as betrayal. Let this be a notice, these actions that we have seen put forward today by the Department of Justice, by the Department of Education, to all other states who are not willing to comply with federal law, that federal law being Title IX, which is very clear in how it was originally implemented, or at least it should be. We never knew we had to define this word sex until these both elected and unelected bureaucrats started to go through the back door and reinterpret this word to mean what they want it to mean. Originally implemented in 1972, it was only 37 words, very brief. Ultimately, of course, preventing sex-based discrimination. Let this be a notice. California, Minnesota, the likes thereof. If you do not comply with federal law, you do not get to reap the benefits of complying with federal law. Of course, one of those benefits being receiving federal funds. Women are protected and recognized under federal law, again, that law being Title IX. The U.S. government under President Trump, including the Department of Justice, including the Department of Education, will not stand by and ignore when the federally protected rights of women and girls are being violated. Again, that encounter between Governor Mills and President Trump went viral for really all of the right reasons. I think she thought she had this mic drop moment when she said, "I'll see you in court." Guess what? You will, because President Trump is a man of his promises. That was his campaign slogan. That's what we've seen delivered. Promises made, promises kept. This is another one. People, the American people, girls, women, boys, men, old, young, white, black, gay, straight, none of those identity factors matter. We want transparency and we want accountability. Again, we voted overwhelmingly in favor of that on November 5th. And accountability is back in the White House. So I stand before you all today, and I thank you, again, Secretary McMahon, Attorney General Bondi. I thank you on behalf of course, myself, but I think more importantly, my younger sister, of all the women and girls who have dreams, like I did when I was young, to achieve, to succeed in my sport and beyond. So thank you.
Riley, thank you. And Zoe would now like to say something. Tell us about your sport too, Zoe.
So I compete in soccer and indoor track and outdoor track. And like was mentioned previously today, I had to watch at the Maine Class B State Indoor Track Championship as my close friend and my teammate and other female competitors lost the state championship to a biological male. And this was heartbreaking for me to have to watch. And Riley said that it's betrayal, and that's what it is. It is the job of our elected officials to protect our young female athletes, and they have failed to do that. We walk into
and into sports, expecting to have a level playing field and to walk into the state championship to see a biological male there and to lose to a biological male, that's betrayal. And so I am extremely grateful to AG Bondi for standing up for us when our elected officials aren't doing that. And on behalf of the girl athletes in Maine, I just want to say thank you all, and I look forward to having the level playing field back after this fight. So thank you.
And Cassidy wants to say a few. My first experience was when I was 13 years old. I was going to change for gym, and I walked into the locker room, and there was a biological male there. From that point on, my junior year, I competed in Nordic skiing and lost to a biological male numerous of times. I am fighting this fight for generations to come. And the fact that our governor can look the women of our state in the eyes and say, I'm not gonna fight for you, is heartbreaking, and it's betrayal, like Riley said. I just wanna thank all these women standing behind me and President Trump for fighting for us. Because even though my own governor isn't fighting for me, I know there are people out there fighting for me.
It takes a lot for these young women to be standing up here saying this too. And again, I'm looking at their amazing parents in the front row who have supported them, who I've gotten to know, who are protecting them every step of the way and telling them that they have a voice to stand up for themselves and future generations of young women to come and many athletes. Okay, should we take some questions? Questions?
Margaret, to the west.
Thank you, Attorney General Bondi. I wanted to ask if there's other states that you're focused on, which ones are next for these types of abuses, including men and women's prisons?
Well, first we're looking at, for this, we're looking at Minnesota, we're looking at California, we're looking at many, many states, but they're the top two that should be on notice because we've been communicating with them. And just like Maine, we're not going out there, we don't want to be suing people, we want them to comply with the law. And that's what we're doing. We have given them opportunity, Maine, and opportunity over and over again. The Department of Education, HHS, they went and sat down with them in person, multiple meetings, and got nowhere. So now this is where we are because they refuse to protect young women in their state. So yes, Minnesota, California, multiple states. As far as prisons, had nothing to do with Title IX. We took away funding from Maine as well. We decided to go a different direction in our grants because we saw one reason they allowed a 6'1", 245 giant man who had violently, no murders, nice, but he had violently murdered his parents with a knife and the family dog, serving life in prison, and he chose to identify as a woman. So guess where he's being housed? In a female prison in Maine. So therefore, my office, we don't want to give any more money to the Department of Corrections in Maine if that's how they're going to act. We're going a different direction in our funding.
Sadie,
So Maine's governor yesterday said there were maybe at most 2 trans athletes in Maine schools right now. I just was hoping you could talk a little bit about the sort of amount of federal resources that you're putting into this and why that's worth it given the small impact in Maine. And I have a second off-topic question too. Given that it has some of the same elements as the firebombings of Tesla dealerships that you charge federally and call domestic terrorism, I'm wondering if you say arson at Pennsylvania Governor Josh McFerrin's house would also be domestic terrorism and something you would investigate federally, and if not, what constitutes domestic terrorism?
Okay, so first the on-topic question about the, I haven't heard Janet Mills' comment. Governor Mills said it's only a couple trans athletes. Well, I think those are boys who identify as girls, wanting to be girls in girls' sports. Well, if one young woman is in jeopardy, that's enough for us to be standing up here. No boy will be undressing in a girl's locker room. No boy will be walking in a woman's restroom. And no boy, when we're finished with this, will be beating young girls in sports. These young women many of them have trained, since you were in elementary school for your sport? Riley, when did you start swimming? 4 years old. They have trained their entire lives. Some of them have lost scholarships, they have lost regionals, they have lost state because of boys. I don't care if it's 1, I don't care if it's 2, I don't care if it's 100, it's going to stop, and it's going to stop in every single state. Tesla. You asked about, yes, Tesla. You asked about, so I spoke to Governor Shapiro. I think you're referring to his governor's mansion. I spoke to him. It is absolutely horrific what happened to him. Kash Patel also spoke to him. We have been praying for Josh, for his family. Those photos, it was horrible. I firmly believe that they wanted to kill him. The defendant allegedly said he was going to use a hammer if he could have gotten to the governor. I've known the governor many, many years. It is horrible. And yes, we are working with state authorities to do, it's now a pending investigation, anything we can to help convict the person that did this and keep them behind bars as long as possible.
Two questions, one on topic and one off topic. I'll start with the on topic. Minnesota and California, you mentioned you're looking at them. Are there active investigations into those states? Are there conversations in which states do you expect to be next based on those conversations?
We have reached out to them. We have sent them letters. We're in the same posture we were in the beginning here with Maine. So let's see what they do. Let's hope they comply. Again, we don't want to sue anyone. We just want you to comply with federal law and protect girls, period. But yes, we are fully prepared to sue them and others that we will be looking at as well.
My off topic, big topic over the past few weeks, Gilmar Braco Garcia from Maryland. He's in a prison now in El Salvador. He was sent there. You insist, the president, everybody in the administration insists that he is MS-13. It appears that there's not going to be any sort of trial. He's not going to come back. He says that he would be arrested and redeported if he comes back. Why not show the American people the evidence that he's MS-13 so they can make an informed decision? And that goes the same with this Henry Josue Santos, who was picked up in Virginia, who is now presumably going to be deported as well. Why not show the public the evidence?
Well, he is an illegal alien who has been living illegally in our country from El Salvador. ICE testified, an immigration judge ruled he was a member of MS-13, an appellate judge ruled he was a member of MS-13. Hard stop, he should not be in our country. He was deported. They needed one additional step in paperwork, but now MS-13 is characterized, as they should be, as an FTO, as a foreign terrorist organization. So he is not coming back to our country. President Bukele said he was not sending him back. That's the end of the story. If he wanted to send him back, we would give him a plane ride back. There was no situation ever where he was going to stay in this country. None. He would have come back, had one extra step of paperwork, and gone back again. But he's from El Salvador, he's in El Salvador, and that's where the president plans on keeping him.
We're not going to see the evidence.
We have the transcripts from the court hearings. I'll be glad to give you the court hearings from 2019, what we have, sure, where the rulings from the judges gladly.
Last one,
Reagan Reese, David Caller, Madam Attorney General, there's a Maine School Board, MSA, D number 70, which voted unanimously on recommendations to follow the governor and to comply with Title IX. With the action you're taking today, will it be possible to exempt schools that comply from any future punishment?
Yes. And I think that was very brave and bold of that school board. We just saw that as well. So the question was one school board in Maine voted to comply. And again, that's all we wanted was compliance. So yes, we will not be going after them, looking at them in this lawsuit because they are compliant and they're protecting women in women's sports.
No, I'm not gonna get you, because I'm studying and I'm cooking right now.
Thank
If
you.
you're gonna come here, you're coming here, you're gonna have to make yourself come here, either or that, either you're not gonna see me tomorrow, or if you're gonna come here, you're gonna have to make yourself come here. I'm not leaving, I'm making something to eat, man, I'm not leaving my house. I won't tell people my house is if I walk this way. That's the whole time. Oh, wow, nothing, I'll tell you what's up. If you wanna see me, come. there, no matter how much I'm studying, I'm gonna find what my mind finds a way to kind of like, oh, let me go there now. Like, for instance, like tonight, yes, I can, like, I'm gonna study for a couple hours tonight, because I'm listening to a lecture, and so certain things I try to get memorized by the end of the night, and I'm not really doing a lot, but I can memorize a lot of things. So I can stay myself in, office and study, or whatever it takes to be, but at the same time, tomorrow, there should go, like, I have to lock in. Once I get up, even if I wanted to, maybe, I'm not going anywhere. I'm ready to stay in my house for the whole day. I'm not going anywhere tomorrow, the day before my body. Yeah, that is a fact of fact.
We're doing again what we should have done
That is a good word.
many years
I
ago.
don't like.
Let it get out of control. And we allowed some countries to get very big and very rich at our expense. And it's not gonna, can't let that happen.
Okay.
It's not a sustainable formula. So I want to thank everybody at the table, and maybe I'll go around and ask, some of you a little short couple of answers.
Do you think I'm rich or something? No, do you think I'm rich or something? You think that,
You want to give us a little report on that?
how do you get the work?
I have to say, everyone at this table is doing an incredible job, by the way, I have to say. Incredible. The relationships are, it's like they're friends. It's really, the relationships are very strong, really good, really strong. And these meetings are very good. And I think, having, I don't believe there's any other president that I have the press to come into meetings such as this. These are very sacred meetings, these are very private meetings, but we have nothing to hide.
Hey, listen, I
I
understand.
think it's
Listen,
good, I think it's a good,
listen,
a word you like to use, just
I am
transparent.
welcome to all
So
sorts.
be transparent, and we'll do that by starting with Pete. Go ahead, Pete.
Yes, Mr. President, we just got back from Panama last night. We were at the Panama Canal, which is a tough time commander ship. FAT and signed a couple of historic meetings. One which is Panama Canal Authority, a framework for U.S. vessels, first and free through the Panama Canal.
This is on
And
Wednesday.
then also a memorandum of understanding with their
Yes, and I said, I see you on Wednesday.
for the
And I say,
presence
see you on
of
Wednesday.
U.S. troops, Fort Sherman, U.S. base there, as well as a naval station and air station, jointly with Panama to secure the Panama Canal from Chinese influence. That's something you said was
Okay, fine, I'll see you
the
Thursday.
canal.
I'll see you Thursday.
China's had too much influence. Obama and others let them creep in. We, along with Panama, are pushing that. We had a very successful trip. Their president, President Molino, sends his regards, very complimentary of the U.S. He's a great ally, and they want the communist Chinese out. And with our troops, they're partnering with their forces. We've got a chance to push their own power company. And it's very exciting. They couldn't believe it when I told them that they get the approval. It's very producing plants, so it's very exciting. And they're able to do it very quickly and very well. Thank you. You have a lot of applications for some of the biggest plants that have ever been built in the world. These are serious plants.
See, that's.
Secretary Burgum, Secretary Wright, we are gonna make progress.
Good steel, right, as opposed to green paper mache.
So of course, we are, I would say, more than friends. We've all become family, and I think that what you have assembled in your vision is a turning point, an inflection point in American history. And so just being part of that is the greatest honor. So thank you for that. And again, just the relationships here and the honor and the respect we have for each other is a reflection of you and your leadership. So I just want to say that first. The second thing I want to say is that on behalf of the farmers and ranchers, food security is national security. We have to be able to feed ourselves. Your idea of using tariffs along with deregulation and tax cuts, but your idea of using tariffs to ensure that we are putting forward and putting America first, no one understands that better than our farmers and our ranchers. But having said that, emerging from 4 years of Biden with a 30% increase in inputs from our farmers and ranchers, with an almost $50 billion trade deficit, when we left the first time it was zero, meaning that they are hurting. So the period of uncertainty we're in, they know that your vision will move us into an age of prosperity for all Americans, but for my people, for the farmers and ranchers, unlike any they have seen before. And I think they are really, really excited and so grateful for your leadership. But also, you have never failed to say that you have the backs of our farmers and our ranchers. It was the first phone call that I had after I was voted in the Senate. And that message just resonated with almost 85% supported me in all aspirations. They're with you. Interestingly, the biggest budget driver at the United States Department of Agriculture is not farming and ranching or agriculture, it's food stamps. And so as we emerge and embark, Secretary Kennedy and I, on your vision of making America
have debt ceiling in there, so we're going to get an increase in the debt ceiling, so, and that will be the, done and dusted for
Part of the bill, we just got a vote on today, so.
part of the bill. It'll be done and dusted for 2 years. We won't have to worry about that. And then I gave a speech yesterday to 1,400 small and community bankers, and they were so happy to hear from your administration. And I told them Wall Street's done great for the past 4 years, 10 years, 20 years. It can continue doing great, but it's Main Street's turn now. And it's those small bankers through deregulation, through emphasis on Main Street, your Main Street agenda, bringing back jobs, that is going to power the smaller communities. And then finally, the bond auction went very well yesterday. We had a lot of foreigners show up as the support, showing that the U.S. is still the best place to invest. The inflation report, as you said, it was quite good. And energy prices are down more than 20% since January 20th.
Good numbers.
Great numbers.
Thank you. Pam?
President, we've had some great wins in the last few days that, you were overwhelmingly elected by the biggest majority. The U.S. Americans want you to be president because of your agenda. And the courts are ruling that you have the authority to determine how the money of this country will be spent. That's what the American citizens wanted, and that's what they're getting. An example of that Friday was the Department of Education, that you can determine how the money will be spent, no more DEI. And that impacts every agency across the board. On the civil side again, NLRB, we had a big win in the Supreme Court there. OPM, a big win there. But also 16,000 workers there. But also on the criminal side, the Alien Enemies Act, we are winning there. And your directive to me was to keep America safe, and that's what we're doing. Whether it's the alien enemies, all of these gangs, and they are enemies of our country. They are terrorists, they are organized crime, they have come here, they are extremely organized, they're spread throughout our country, and they are creating terror. And no more under your directive. And that is stopped. Yesterday in South Florida, we charged 11 defendants with $500 million of pure cocaine coming into our country to kill our kids. They were caught, they will be prosecuted to the fullest extent of the law. These gang members are going back to where they came, or they're going to an El Salvador prison at your directive. And you also gave us a directive to prosecute the people who are going after Tesla to the fullest extent of the law. Some of the greatest police work I've seen. We've made 4 arrests. There will be no negotiations at your directive. They're all looking at 20 years in prison, and within the next 24 hours, you're going to be seeing another huge arrest on a Tesla dealership, President. And that person will be looking at least 20 years in prison with no negotiations.
That's great. That will stop it. Cold. Thanks. Doing a great job, too. Thank you very much. Lori, please.
Mr. President, accountability matters. That's what we're recognizing with our partners at the Department of Labor for Government Efficiency. Just a few weeks ago, we realized there's about $4.4 billion in COVID funds that were not used, that the state coffers were just holding on to. Out of that, we returned $1.4 billion back to the state treasury, so essentially to the American people, and we'll go back and claw the rest of those billions of dollars back. And on the heels of that, late last night, we're understanding unemployment insurance fraud. That trust needs to be whole for the American people. When we need it for who deserves it. That's not what we're seeing in the numbers we saw last night, again, exposed by our partners at DOJ, at the Department of Labor. Since 2020, over $400 million of payments have gone out already. And when you hear these numbers, apparently in the United States, we have over almost 25,000 people who are over 115 years old, who are collecting $59 million that we have sent out to people. Talk about fraudulent behavior. Mr. President, 28,000 people between 1 and 5 years old have collected fraudulent payments at the tune of $254 million has gone out. And lastly, 10,000 people who have not been born yet, 15 years into the future, $69 million, and they haven't even been born yet. In one case, United States government sent them $41,000 and they're not going yet. So, under the Department of Labor, those are the things that we're uncovering. I couldn't be more honored to tell the American people that we're bringing back their dollars and we're saving them and returning them to the United States Treasury. Also, jobs numbers. Last Friday, 228,000 new jobs were reported. That is good for the American people. That is my primary job to grow that workforce under your leadership. So we've kicked off the America at Work tour, and we'll be visiting all 50 states, and I'll be working with my colleagues here to do just that. So thank you, Mr. President. We're going to grow this economy. We're going to keep our focus on the American worker.
So you're finding tremendous growth, those numbers are really bad when you're
I've heard of it.
over 115 years old. And I think you had mentioned the oldest person in our country is 114 years old. That's pretty good.
A woman living in Pennsylvania, but apparently there's 24,000 more of them that are 115 or older that we're
I hope you hear that. So we are 24,000 older than the oldest person.
Definitely good. It's like, you know,
And what are we doing about that? How do we get that money back?
Yeah, so we're working with our IGs to do that further investigation. The House and Senate, we had a 5-year statute of limitations. We've got an extension on that, another 5 years. And so the goal
Hey fam, I'm gonna go ahead and end the stream here. Gotta do some studying right now, so but I really appreciate everyone who tuned in to the live and watched the videos. I'm really appreciative of everyone. Thank you guys very much. I'm a small channel. I'm trying to go big. I'm a channel that does mostly firearm content, and you know, obviously I love politics and cars and trucks and animals. That's my thing. Obviously the election was a big thing for me, and I'm a big Republican. I vote for the right thing. I don't just vote for who's in party or because they support blacks or this or that. I vote for the right thing, and I just would like you guys to do the same thing too. But with that said, guys, I'm gonna go ahead and end the stream, and thank you guys for joining. I really appreciate you. May God bless every single one of you. Thank you guys for tuning in. If you subscribe to the channel, I appreciate you. I'm gonna start doing some commentary on a lot of little things, but as for now, I'm in school right now, so, and I'm really stuffed with work. But later on, I'm gonna really put time into the channel once I graduate and get my degree. But for now, anytime I'm watching these things, I just kind of want to like put it out there so other people can enjoy it too, and then make a commentary. I appreciate every single one of you. Thank you guys very much, and have a wonderful, wonderful day.